Department of
Welcome
Civilian,
back
really
to Pax Mithdosica. It's been a while, but today we're going to be diving in with a Primius solo session, a bit of a prequel. Primius,
Yeah.
you are on the plains, the Debrashan Plains to be specific. Around you is an endless field of grass. Under your legs is a horse. You don't know its name. It was granted to you by the Master of Judges. And your destination is quite a ways off. You've been riding for days eastward, past the boundaries of civilization and the Empire, past Fort Bortul, where you spent one last night amongst your kinsmen. And now you are in the Principality of Donoslaski, an ally of Mithdosica, but a hesitant one. Their loyalty has not yet been tested by the war on the plains, and there are questions as to what this principality would do if a war did break out. But that's not why you're here. You are headed towards the capital city of Dolno because of a letter that you received. The letter read, Master of Judges, I have been serving as Hyro monk at the Temple of St. Borislav for a month, and I have seen things of great concern. The Archimandrite encourages strange practices amongst the people there, and when I attempted to contact the Ecclesiarch for clarification, I never got a reply. This is the fourth letter I am sending. If you receive this, please send a judge as soon as possible. I am unsure of how much longer I will be able to endure the current circumstances. Faithful of the Emperor, Hyro Monk Therion. The letter was received by Proconsul, the Master of Judges, almost 2 months ago, and you are finally following up on this lead. But that's for the future, once you get to Dolno. Today, the sun is starting to get low. You've decided that you don't want to spend another night out on the plains, so you've been looking for villages. Out here, they're rather sparse, but they do occasionally pop up. Lone villages atop hills and an endless sea of grass. And your horse notices it before you do. Your thoughts wander these days. It's hard to stay focused, but your horse seems to smell water, or perhaps food, or perhaps companionship, and as its head lifts to look ahead of you, you can see a distant smokestack of a village. There's not much action you need to take. The horse carries itself. This is a willful steed, and it begins to take you towards the village. As you get closer, though, I'd like you to make a perception check.
Alright. Perception has always been like the hardest thing for me to find on this sheet.
Luckily, it's alphabetical.
That's true.
As you approach this village, you see no sign bearing its name, which isn't entirely uncommon. There's plots of farms around the village, though it's a pretty tightly packed affair. No one's out in the field, it's too late in the day. As you get near the courtyard that forms the central part of the village, you do get a couple people looking at you with what you read as suspicion. It's not often that people come from the west, especially looking like you do, clad in weaponry. You are a judge of the Empire, but you're also not in Mithdosica proper. You're in one of your allied states. So how would you go about getting an accommodation for tonight?
I would think I would go to... Is there like a longhouse? Is this like a big enough, like, proper where they have,
that's
like,
a fair
longhouse?
question. So obviously, as you rightly guessed, there is no inn or tavern in this place. Way too small. But there is what you can tell to be a boyar's hut. Similar to quaestors in the Empire, boyars are the lowest level nobility in these principalities. And they own everyone living here because they are properly feudal. So this village, all the surrounding lands, all the horses, all the men, all the women and children are the property of whoever lives in that boyar's home, which you can see. It's like you described, a long house with a reinforced door. There's a single man kind of seated on a chair in front, probably a retainer of some sort.
Yeah, I'll head to that. I assume he's the person I have to ask, not the people he owns.
Yeah, as you plod over to the longhouse on horseback, the person who is sitting next to the door looking very bored will stand up. He has an axe at his waist, a standard soldier's weapon here on the plains, not many trees to cut down. And the man will stand, and he'll say in Debrashan, "Are you lost?"
No, I am a judge of the Empire. and I wish to speak to your owner.
Boyar.
Boyer.
Boyer. Yeah, his face will kind of like wrinkle in annoyance at you. It's a reaction you're not used to. In the Empire and in the future adventures of Primius, people on the plains will be pretty frightened of judges. But at this moment, you're not in the Empire. And because there's no war raging, the principalities don't really need you. So you are functionally just a guest. And so rather than quickly answering you, he'll kind of pause, look at your equipment. His eyes kind of pass along your mithril weaponry, which would be worth a fortune. He's then, after, a couple of seconds of silence, he'll say, "Do you have a badge?"
Yeah, I'll show him my badge.
He'll kind of look at it, and then he'll take it from your hand and look at it closer. Roll me an insight check.
Is he gonna try and paw it?
That would be pretty crazy because it's right in front of you. As he's looking at it, and then he's looking back at you, you can tell he has no idea what he's looking at. He doesn't know what a judge's badge is supposed to look like. This is purely a power trip to basically fuck with you. And he'll continue looking at it for several long seconds. And then with your badge still in hand, he'll go to walk inside of the longhouse.
Yeah, I'll follow him.
As you climb off your horse to go follow him, he kind of puts his arm blocking the doorway and says, "I'll go speak to the Boyer."
I'm gonna need my badge back if you're gonna go talk to him.
Yeah. So you speak Tabrashan, and what he says next is technically Tabrashan, but it's a local dialect. So let's get an intelligence check to see if you can figure out what exactly he's saying. Yeah, I mean, he mumbles something under his breath that is clearly derogatory, but what exactly it means you can't really guess, because to your understanding of Tabrashan, it's something like board scrubber, like board washer, which just doesn't, that's whatever. That doesn't seem that bad. But then he hands you your badge back.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best to comply with current events and just not murder someone because they said something.
Yeah, no, I think that's a reasonable response. He'll then go inside of the longhouse, and you're kind of sitting there, tapping your feet. A couple people were watching you when you first rode into the village, and there are now more starting to gather. A foreigner and a judge of the Empire, no less, is very clearly very rare. Maybe the first time there's ever been one in these parts. And so you start to get a crowd watching you, and all of them are potential threats. The man who threw a firebomb, he just was a stagecoach driver. There is nothing unique about him. And here amongst this crowd, you see fathers and sons and mothers, and yet every one of them has billowing tunics. It's cold this time of year. They could be concealing anything under that. And yeah, I think, yeah.
Can I make a perception check to see,
Certainly.
What they have on them? Anyone,
Yeah, I mean, most of the crowd is normal folk. They don't have much on them. You see one person, he's an older man, maybe in his 40s, 50s. You see he has a big cloak on over his shoulder, so it kind of covers his whole everything, and underneath that cloak there's some movement, like he's fiddling with something under his cloak, but...
Yeah, I'm gonna... Am I, facing them, or are they behind me?
They're in a semicircle around you in the square while you were, kind of waiting at the doorway of the longhouse. They're also giving you space. They're not, approaching or anything. They're just watching.
Yeah, I don't know, what I do, but I think he'd just kind of, stare directly at him.
You just give him a dirty look?
Yeah.
Yeah, roll me an intimidation check.
Oh, okay.
Actually, with advantage. I think that fits in this context. Strange foreign man armed with weaponry just gives you an evil eye. Yeah, that section of the crowd, 4 or 5 people, probably the family of that man, kind of cringe away when you look at them, and as you continue to stare with golden eyes, they will retreat inside of a nearby home. And the rest of the crowd kind of keeps their distance, backing up a couple steps. And a moment later, the door to the longhouse will open, and the guard from earlier emerges, and you instantly identify the Boyer. He has this very large fur mantle over his shoulders to keep him warm. He has a signet ring on his hand to denote him as Tabrashan nobility, Importantly, he also has a second signet ring marking him as an officer at one point in one of your guys' legions. Like in a Mithdosian legion, he served at some point. And he will kind of give you a big smile, though it doesn't quite reach his eyes, and he'll say, "Well, to what do we owe the pleasure of a Mithdosian here?"
I was passing through on a mission given to me from the Empire, and I'll put it simply, I was seeking lodging away from the coldness of the plains.
That's perfectly fine. And he'll kind of open up his arms to gesture for you to come in, and as you walk into the doorway, he'll say, "Your Tabrashan's quite good. Were you born on the plains?"
Spent many years with the legions, so I had time to learn.
Which legion?
It was the 7th, right?
Indeed.
The 7th.
Well, I didn't serve in the 7th. I was in an auxiliary legion, but I fought my fair share of battles too. Second Boyers Revolt.
That was a good one.
And as he leads you into the longhouse, it looks like every other Tabrashan longhouse you've been in during your long service on the plains. There's a large central room sectioned off by hanging bits of cloth. There are servants in here that work to maintain the Boyer's household. His wife tends to the fire. That's not very common. Most wives of noblemen would not ever do manual labor, but clearly this village is on the poorer side, so they're not quite rich enough to have a servant do all that. There are also a number of children, some of which would be his kids, other ones would be kids from around the town. It's quite a big building, and you can see about across from the fireplace hang his trophies. This is classic Tabrashan behavior. There is a broken sword, probably one he took from an enemy. There is a tattered banner, which you have not seen this particular banner before, but this is clearly one of the banners wielded by the rebels in the Second Boyers Revolt. They declared an independent princedom, and that princedom was represented by a white horse on a green field, and one of those banners hangs over the mantle. And the Boyer will gesture for you to sit next to the fire, and he'll say, "Well, we've already served dinner for today, but we have some spare biscuits. I assume it'll be better than whatever road rations the legions gave you."
Quite right, you are.
We also have some bacon that we could warm up. Not much left, and some horse meat, though. I know that, other Mithdosians I've met have been a bit suspicious about it.
Anything is better than nothing, so I thank you for your hospitality.
He'll nod, and as he stands up to walk away, it's not that he's not pleasant. He is a archetype of Tabrashan you're very familiar with that you would call collaborators. They are those who work with the Empire because they see profit in it. But that profit, it's not true loyalty. It's just an alliance of convenience. And, you find yourself kind of tense as, servants bring you food and drink, and you can't detect poison. That's not in your skill set yet, but a small part of you wonders that, what is their true motivations? If someone paid them enough money, would they hand you over? You can't have a true friendship with a person like that. And after you've eaten a bit, he will return, probably 15 minutes later, and he'll say, "Well, we don't have a separate place for you to sleep, but we have a bed that's nearly as nice as mine, behind that partition there that you could sleep in if you wanted to be under a warm roof."
That is completely fine.
Wonderful. And he'll gesture towards one of his servants, a young man with a bald head, which means he's a war slave captured in conflict. And he will guide you over to that partitioned off bed. It's not great. It's basically a flat piece of wood with a bunch of furs stacked on top of it. But it's not terrible either. It's better than sleeping under...
dead grass.
Yeah, dead grass. So as you get ready for bed, do you take any precautions before you go to bed?
I don't know, what I would do to, prep, or... what's, a spell I have?
Not many is the answer.
Yeah.
You're still pretty low level, but you got a couple.
Sort of spiritual weapon, prayer of healing. Okay.
Yeah, I think most of these are combat usage.
Yeah, I don't really have any
Sure, I was thinking more propping your sword up in a way where if someone lightly tapped it, it would fall, tamping down the cloth partition so that someone can't just crawl under what is functionally the walls into your little sleeping area. Anything like that.
Yeah, I guess I would do that. I would keep Is there anything in this room that's not my weapon?
Basically, so the wall, one of the walls is real. It's like actually, it's the edge of the longhouse. The other 3 are made up of cloth, and they don't go all the way to the floor. There's like 6 inches of gap at the bottom. The ceiling is just a cloth tarp over the top of you, and the only pieces of furniture in here are the bed and a little end table that's carved to look like a stump.
Okay. Yeah, I guess those 2 things you mentioned would be fine.
Yeah, you put your sword near the base of the bed very gently. You keep one on your person, and using a little bit of extra rope, you tie down the cloth as much as possible. It's just not enough to get it all the way to the floor, but someone couldn't easily squeeze through anymore. And how long do you think it takes you to get to bed?
Really, I mean, it's, I guess, marginally more comfortable than the planes,
Much more comfortable,
yeah. I don't like being here.
Yeah. Well, it takes a bit. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But eventually, the day's exhaustion and the comfortableness of the bed and the furs overtake you, and you don't remember falling asleep. But the next thing that you experience is fire. For a moment, you start to panic. It takes you a second to realize that this is a dream. It's one that you have every single night, and you've had for the better part of a year. You hear the crackling of your flesh as it sizzles and burns. You hear 2 young women's voices screaming out in agony. And you hear a consistent thudding, the sound of a person banging against wood as hard as their body can. But as with every time you experience this in a dream, you know how it ends. All 4 of you burn within that carriage. Your mother, your sisters, yourself. All the strength in the world is not enough to overcome the barricade placed up against the carriage door, and the flames are all consuming. And then the pain stops. And you're no longer in a burning carriage. You're in a place of light, atop the clouds, above the pain and the burning. You are in a place of light, and sitting in that is a great golden brazier, which burns with the light of heaven. And above that is the throne of the Almighty. Every time you're here, in this dream, remembering your moment of revivification, the conversation plays out a little bit differently. You've begun to forget what you actually said to the Almighty. The only part you remember is your oath. I swear to seek glory in battle and subjugate your enemies. It was a bold oath, but you felt that there was something more to say, and so you added on, I shall bring fear and tyranny to the enemies of the Empire in your name. Beyond that, you think that you may have begged for the life of your family, but the Almighty did not grant it. You think you may have asked him why you, of all people, a faithful servant of his, would suffer, but you don't remember his answer if he gave one. But then, the dream ends, and you wake up drenched in sweat. No matter how many times you have the dream, or no matter how quickly you figure out that it is a dream after all, the reaction in your body is always the same. Your heart is pounding. And then you hear the tweeting of birds outside, you hear sizzling on the pot, and you remember that it's morning time, and the evening has passed you by.
Dude, last night I had a dream that my wallet was stolen, and I woke up the
Yeah,
exact
same
way.
shit.
Yeah, so I basically
These are
have
similar
experienced
magnitude.
this. Yeah, I'm basically Primius. He's just like me, for
He's
real.
just like me, for real, for real. Well, you exit your room, and do you get breakfast, or do you leave immediately?
I don't really have rations on my person.
Correct. Your horse has some food in the saddlebag, but the plan was essentially to scrounge from locals because you're a judge of the damn empire.
That's right. So I will take what is rightfully mine and eat my food that they have.
The boyar, along with about a quarter of the servants, aren't present. but his wife is tending to the household, and she'll make sure that you are given some food. It's kind of awkward because she clearly doesn't have her husband's affinity for Mithdosians, so she doesn't speak to you at all. Like, you walk into the area, she just kind of like gestures towards an empty seat, she brings you food, it's all kind of a wordless interaction. On the bright side, though, it doesn't look like she's trying to figure out how best to profit off you like her husband, so that is somewhat of a relief.
Yeah, I actually prefer this interaction.
Alrighty, well, there you go. And you decide to review the scroll that's bringing you to Dolno. You've read it, a dozen times, maybe more. But it's always worthy to know exactly what you're going in there for. Back in Nauseous and Mythos before that, you also did some reading on how, this took the context around this person, Hieromonk Therion. And basically what you got is that Mythdosia, as a part of its policy of steady imperial expansion, is attempting to convert all the Terrashian plains to Aurelian soul worship. But a lot of the allied princedoms don't particularly like that. They view Aurelian soul worshippers as traitors, and, it's a whole thing. So the Kiage of Donoslaski was essentially bribed to set up a shrine in his capital. And that shrine has a very low number of staff. It only has about 5 people working at it, or 6 if you include the person who sent you the letter. So it should be a pretty tight-knit community of Mithdosians that can help you figure out what exactly is going on. You also note that the head of the church here is an esotericist, meaning they belong to a somewhat fringe sect of Aurelian soul. But that's about all you know. You're not very religiously educated at this point in your life, so any further information will have to be discovered on the ground. Is there any questions you'd have about the letter that you would have researched prior to this?
So I looked into the history kind of Dolno, or just like the background of it. I've looked into what's the status of Hieromonk?
Oh, Hieromonk are the lowest ranking members of the church. They are non-clerics and non-paladins, but they choose to surrender their status and title and all that stuff to serve the church.
Okay.
They do things like write out purity seals, maintain the fire inside of shrines, things like that.
So this guy who wrote this letter is kind of like what caused, I guess, Master of Judges to follow through on this one in particular?
Yeah, it's largely because of the time period. This is before the cataclysm struck the Empire, so the judges don't actually have that many jobs to do. There hasn't even been the plague yet. The Empire is doing quite well, and so there's not many judges, and most of your jobs are easy. Again, this is your very first, so you're not super sure, but you heard from other judges that there hasn't even been a proper cult in the core Empire in a decade. So basically he got through the whole list of tasks to be done. He's like, well, this is a random letter from some random guy. We got nothing better for you to do. Go and deal with it.
Oh, fair and valid.
Yeah.
All right. Do I know what happened to the 4 other letters he sent out?
No, you do not.
Okay. He's just keeps writing.
It was never received by the Master of Judges, and if he sent any after this, so over the last 2 months, those weren't received either, if he sent them.
Okay. All right. I guess I have no further questions.
Fair enough, then. You mount back up, and you start to travel towards the city of Dolno. Your horse moves through the high grass for the better part of the day. A little bit after noon, slowly emerging on the horizon is the den of scum and villainy that is known as Dolno. Built atop a hill that rises up from the surrounding plains, a rock formation dominates the city's skyline. The city was built in the shadow of this circular rock formation, which looks like a great titan from the Dawn days decided to lay down. The walls are built of great logs of Feywood trees, nearly 40 feet high, and banners of the prince flutter from the walls. The gatehouses are a melding of stone and wood, a unique and primitive architecture, far from the elegance of Mithdosian designs. And you don't see the distinctive dome of any temple of Aurelian soul, which means they must be whatever temple you're looking for must be so short that it doesn't go above the walls. That shouldn't be that surprising. The Tabrashans cling to their pagan faith, and very few of those outside the Empire actually convert. And so... What?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Your journey will take you to the gate to try to get into the city. And here, there are several guards, about 6 at the gate that you approach, and there's only 2 gates into the city. So it's rather lightly defended for there only to be 6 guards. But they stop a cart that's in front of you, and if you were in the Empire, you would just walk right past, flash your badge, but unfortunately you do have to do things the somewhat proper way. And after the cart in front of you is inspected, one of the guards approaches you. He's a youth, maybe like 17, 18. He's probably a retainer of one of the local boyars. He has a little tabard on that probably marks his house of loyalty, but you have no idea the various houses of Dolno. That is super irrelevant information. And he'll kind of gesture his hand in your direction and say, "What do you want?"
I'm a judge of the Empire. I'm here to investigate a... Actually, that's none of your business.
You say that in Tabrashan?
Yeah.
He'll look at you and kind of lean against his spear and then look back at the other guards. Most of them are sitting down, being pretty lazy, but he'll gesture towards one of them, and an older man will approach who has an axe across his back. This guy's an actual soldier. You fought proper Tabrashan soldiers, and they look like him, wearing chainmail, a little steel cap over his head, an axe slung across his back, smaller hand axes at his side. And he'll kind of mumble something to the younger man, and then he'll say, "So, you're Mithdosian, apparently."
Correct.
Your Tabrashan's pretty good.
Okay.
Kind of looks at you suspiciously. And what city do you come from?
What's the name of the capital?
Mythos.
Mythos.
He narrows his eyes even further. He looks over at the younger boy. Did we get any information of a diplomat coming? The younger man shakes his head. The older man will look at your equipment. Those are awfully expensive weapons. He'll look back at you.
Yeah.
Let's search your saddlebag. Open it up.
Yeah, I'll comply.
Yeah, you unlatch your saddlebag. I mean, it's on your inventory sheet. It's nothing particularly unique, but the older man will rifle through it. He'll toss your manacles to the ground. He'll, grab out your coin purse, toss that to the ground as well.
I mean,
again,
he's just doing this just to fuck with
correct.
me.
You notice a trend that amongst the soldiery of Tabrasha, specifically Donoslavsky, you are not very well liked. And after he finishes tossing most of your stuff to the dirt, he'll kind of point at the younger man and say, "All right, put it back." And then he'll pause and think for a moment. And he'll say, "No, actually." And he picks up your coin purse. And at first you think he's just going to steal from you. I mean, it would be kind of insane if he did that, but why else would he be grabbing your coin purse? But instead of, taking a coin out, putting it into his pocket or something, he takes one of your coins out and he starts inspecting it under the light of the sun. You don't know what he's looking for.
I don't actually have...
Yeah, you should have like 25 silver and 25 gold in your sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. And he'll start by inspecting one of your gold coins. He'll kind of look at it under the sun. All right, you're going to be coming with us. And he gestures for you to follow him.
For what cause?
This is a forgery. You're a spy trying to bring foreign goods and debased currency into our city.
Oh?
Seems that way to me.
Well.
Lest you want to prove me wrong, show me some proper coins.
Well. What proof do you have that this is an improper coin?
I can just tell.
Yeah.
You and the older man are staring at one another, and at this point, a couple of the other guards who are seated are starting to stand up, wondering what this is all about. And the younger guard will just kind of whisper something to the older man. You can't quite make out what he's whispering, but you can read his lips, and he's saying something along the lines of, let's just take some and leave, like just not making this a problem. But the older man continues to hold your gaze. Perhaps we need to impound this here bag.
You do not want this.
Oh, and what are you gonna do? You Mithdosians high atop your horses. I doubt it'd change much.
What is?
He said, you Mithdosians high atop your horses, he doubt that it would change much. As in, you probably wouldn't win.
Well... Dang, these guys are making it really hard not to, like...
This one guy is making it very hard, yeah.
Yeah, like, not... God, I should really just draw and quarter this guy.
Well... Mods.
Mods, ban him and blow up his fucking house.
Draw and quarter
him.
At this point, there's like several people behind you as well, but all of them are keeping their distance since everyone involved in your little interaction is armed with weapons.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stare back at him.
The staring contest continues, and the younger man is fidgeting. The older man seems confident. And in the gatehouse proper, you see a door open, and a man walks out wearing basically lamellar armor, which is like scale armor. It's the type of armor worn by either professional mercenaries out in the plains or by boyars. And based on his plumed helmet, you assume he's a boyar. He kind of looks over, sees you. Realistically, he sees your mithril weapons. That's the first thing that draws his attention. And the boyar will start to walk over, and the older man will kind of break off his gaze with you and look towards the boyar. And as the boyar approaches, he'll say in Tabrashan, "What's going on?" And the older man will kind of speak up rather quickly. Some man here is claiming that he's a judge of the Empire, and he brought these coins. It's a lot of money. And the boyar will take a look at it and glance up at you, and he'll say in Mithdosian, "You are a judge?"
Yeah, I'll show him my badge.
He'll glance at it and nod. "Why are you here? The prince did not request any assistance."
What was it? The monastery we set up a while ago. Yeah, requested aid from the Empire. I'm here to check up on it. Nothing more. He
kind of gives you that look where, like, he clearly speaks some Mithdosian, but something in your sentence he did not understand. So he just kind of stares at you like deer in headlights style.
Wait. What? Is there a word in it in Tabrashan? Can I say this in Tabrashan and it makes
you
sense?
Can just switch to Tabrashan. There's no reason.
I'll switch to Tabrashan.
Oh, yeah. And then what do you say?
I'll say the exact same thing.
Oh, he'll nod and say, okay. I didn't know you. Well, you mean the temple of, Saint something. Saint Borislav, Saint Bartimus, something like that?
You got it right the first time.
Okay, well. All right, then. He'll hand your bag of coins back over to you. He'll kind of grab the reins of your horse, which is a little bit of an aggressive maneuver. Your nameless horse doesn't particularly like that. And then he'll, kind of begin to pull your horse along and say, "I'll take you there."
Okay.
And the guards return to the gate, a little bit annoyed.
Yeah, I'm getting a little smirk as I walk by.
The boyar will continue to walk you along the road, kind of leading your horse by its reins, and he'll kind of glance over his shoulder back at you as he's walking and say, "Why are you alone?"
No need for anyone else. There's not a whole lot of us these days.
A couple of months ago, a whole convoy of priests and, holy men arrive to check in on the shrine. But now they send just you.
Well. What? Did I hear of this convoy?
No,
I don't remember.
When you were researching it, you have no idea what he's talking about.
Convoy was sent. Do you mind expanding on that?
Some very important religious man from your place came to the temple to make sure that everything was all right. He left some people there.
Did they give a name?
Ecclesiarch, I think, was the title. The name, I do not know.
That is good information. Okay, I'm going to write that down. Okay, I'll just write it here.
As you clip-clop through the streets of Dolno, which isn't even fully paved in most places, it's just compacted dirt, you do draw some attention, but less so than you did out in that rural village. You're obviously not the first Mithdosian they've seen, and you're probably not even the first judge they've seen. Dolno is a real city, despite its, modest means. And you even see a couple of other soldiers. In fact, back in the Empire proper, soldiers are all over the place. You guys have a standing army, but that isn't actually true for most of the world. Like here in the Principalities, they don't have a standing army. But Donoslavsky, of the different princedoms you've been to, Donoslavsky seems the most ready for a war. Which, you don't know what to make of that. These damn Tabrashans, you never know what they're up to.
I'm gonna kill him later.
Eventually, you'll turn a corner into a large, kind of Y-shaped courtyard, and at the kind of, if you're imagining a Y, where like the two legs meet, right there is the location of a temple. You immediately recognize it as one because it has a dome. Domes are very rare on the plains, like incredibly rare. That's just not a part of Tabrashan architecture, but it is very common in Mithdosian architecture. So the second you see this dome structure, you know you are looking at a civilized building. It's pretty small. It's about 25 feet high at the apex of the dome, which means inside it's probably like 10 feet high. The doors are these two large wooden doors with banded iron across them, and attached to it is what looks to be a poorhouse, an almshouse, essentially a place where people who are urchins or very poor can eat food, get a night's sleep in a safe place. And the boyar will kind of loosen his grip on the reins of your horse and then eventually let go of them as you approach the door. The doors are open, but it's pretty dark inside compared to how bright it is in the middle of the day. And he'll say, "Well, this is the temple.
Thank you."
You're not staying for long, are you?
No, probably 2 days at max.
Kind of looks you up and down and just kind of takes a couple steps back, like he intends to wait outside for you.
Is there a place just to like leave my horse, or is he?
I mean, there's posts. They're not meant for this, but you can just do it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do that.
Yeah, you climb off your horse, tie it around a post that's probably meant for like hanging signages or like events or things like that. And you step into the dark temple. Inside is the fire chamber. The layout of Mithdosian temples is relatively standardized. Saint Captiosus, in his very first work, laid out what a temple should look like, and almost every one of them matches it, including this one. There's a large circular chamber with 3 separate tiers. At the lowest level, there is a large fire burning within a brazier. Then there is a statue of the Almighty, and then in the alcove surrounding it, there can be statues of the different faces of the Almighty, or there can be local saints and stuff like that. Which results in like the center of the temple being very bright because there's a bonfire there, but the rest of it being pretty dark, very, very dim in comparison. So you can really only make out like the vague outlines of 2 or 3 people on the second and the third tier, but down near the fire, you can see there is a woman. It's kind of hard to tell her age because she's wearing the robes of a presbyter of the church, a priest, and you can tell that she has very faint, glowing golden eyes.
Okay, yeah, I'll walk in.
Make me a perception check.
Perception.
You notice a couple details as you're descending the steps down to the lowest tier of the temple that are weird. For example, the statue of Aurelian Sol. Every temple you've ever been to in your entire life depicts Aurelian Sol in the same way. A naked man with a halo around his head. He's typically made of gold. This temple couldn't afford that, so he's made of stone. That's fine. That's not the weird part. The weird part is that he's anorexic. He's not this, like, built, god. He is a, kind of hunched over figure with a crooked spine, visibly exposed ribs, a stomach that's sunken in and sickly. You've never seen Aurelian Sol depicted in that way before.
Alright. Do I see anyone else in here besides the lady?
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 people on the second and third tiers. You see one of them placing their offering on an offering table. Presumably that'll be burned. Up in the third tier, there is a series of little statues and alcoves that are very dark from where you are, so they're kind of hard to see, but you can see 2 people are standing before one of those little alcove statues.
Are they talking?
No, this is a very quiet place of contemplation. Over in the almshouse, you'd expect a lot more yapping.
Okay. And their backs are to me, correct? I can't see what.
Well, so the one in the second tier, the one who's putting an offering block, you can see it. Again, it's dark, so you can't make out a ton of details, but it's a man, probably 30s. You can see he's placing a loaf of bread and what looks to be a purity seal on a tray. These are very standard offerings to Aurelian Sol.
Okay, I'll walk to the lady because she seems in charge.
Yeah, she's just tending to the fire. You can see she's holding a poker, which she's feeding wood into the fire. Back in Mithdosica, like the capital, they don't need wood to burn fires. They have magical fires. In Pax, you encountered one of these when you were casting, I believe it was Revivify. You fed the gold to the fire and you received a diamond. Here, out in the boonies, they have to stoke them the old way. So she's essentially maintaining a permanent burning fire. And as you reach the bottom of the steps, she'll look at you, and almost like everyone you've met, her eyes first go to your weapons and then to your face, and she'll say, "Greetings."
Hello, sister. I was sent by the Master of Judges to investigate here, based off of suspicions given to me. Do not mind me. If I ask you a couple questions, I would ask that you comply.
Of course.
Yeah, and then I'll be on my way. I guess my first mission is to find... I don't assume there's many people looking like pyromonks.
Yeah, I mean, your assumption, what the documents that you found told you was there's 6 people that are officially supposed to be here. There is the Archimandrite, who is the head religious official. There are 2 priests, presbyters, and then there are 3 hieromonks. Other than that, there's volunteers and stuff, but that's the only full-time staff of this church.
Yeah, I guess my first mission would be to find someone, one of the hieromonks.
Yeah, I mean, the person you're talking to here is clearly at least a presbyter or higher because she has a faint golden glow to her eyes, and clerics are immediately promoted past hieromonk.
Yeah. So, yeah, I got no business asking her if she's carry on.
Sure.
I know how hieromonks dress, right? It's just
Yeah, so it depends the order they belong to. The Empire doesn't actually have aggressive religious orders like the Jade Lady does. Instead, they have kind of streams of thought. When you become a hieromonk, you take an oath according to one of the ancient saints. So if you belong to the Order of St. Captiosus, then you do certain things. But, ignoring all that nuance, generally monks are going to be wearing brown. They're going to be looking relatively androgynous, they'll have their hair cut very low to their head, male or female. They'll have their hair covered up, male or female. So very, ascetic lifestyle, if you know what that word means.
I'm just trying to find this guy without asking around because
sure. I mean, you can just go look. He's probably wearing brown robes and bald.
Yeah.
Or a short hair.
I just don't want to self-report this guy Hieromonk Therion.
Yeah, no, there are going to be multiple hieromonks in this building. You expect 3, Therion and 2 others.
Okay. I guess I'll go to the closest one.
Okay, yeah. There's none in this room, but that's not to be surprising. They mostly deal with the administrative work, so You give a wave to the mother. She, doesn't say anything, and you make your way over to the almshouse connected to the central temple. And here things are busy. As you step, because you're entering these kind of side door of the almshouse, so it's not super busy directly where you're standing, but it's separated out into 3 areas. The first is a dining hall with a kind of conveyor belt line of service for food. Lots of people eating there. In fact, more than you would expect, because a lot of these people look relatively well off. Like, these don't look like people starving, or people living on the street. Some of these look like normal everyday folk. Then you see a section that is dedicated to just like benches. A lot of people are sleeping on those currently. And then there's an area that's like blocked off by cloth partitions, and you expect over there is probably where the sleeping happens, like proper full overnight. And you can see operating this like food conveyor belt, there are 2 hieromonks and a collection of local volunteers.
There's probably too much noise to like overhear if like what they're saying, or if like a man is
I mean, yeah,
saying.
you can get a little bit closer, like without fully walking into the room, because then people would, look at you. But you can move a little bit closer to the line, and the line is the same. All the servers are saying is, blessings be upon the Almighty, and basically thanking him for giving them this food to give to the poor.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I'll look for the 3rd hieromonk.
Yeah. He wasn't back in the other room. He's not in here. You also haven't seen the other presbyter or the other archimandrite, so you suspect that they're somewhere within the chapel, like within the administrative areas of the temple, which that's not accessible to the public.
Yeah.
That's where they sleep and eat and do all that stuff.
And yeah, he's not in like the sleeping quarters or in like.
You can walk over to the cloth partition and open it. Inside, there is no one sleeping right now. They kick people out during the day. You can see a couple of what look to be local volunteers cleaning the beds, replacing the hay, fluffing the pillows as best as they can, maintaining the space.
Right.
Since you're clearly looking for something, I think one of the volunteers will approach you, and they'll say in Tibrashan, after, they see your weapons, they'll say, hello, can I help you?
I'm looking for... I'm looking to speak to one of the hieromonks, but 2 over there seem busy.
Yes, they are busy at the moment. I'm sure they wouldn't mind to speak with you, if it's important.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And guess I'll just go right to talking to them.
Sure. Yeah, you head over to the food line, and you're clearly not here for food, as you kind of stand off to the side, and one of the hieromonks, after getting a local volunteer who is cooking to take over their station, will walk over. He is, late 20s. He has kind of a little bit of blonde facial hair. He clearly hasn't shaven for the day. His hair is cut down nearly to his scalp, but not like actually bald. And he has this, brown robe from just at the top of his neck down to basically his ankles, and a hood, but his hood is pulled back at the moment. And he'll give a nod to you and say, in Mithdosian, he'll say, "Greetings."
Hail, brother.
I wasn't aware that the church was sending us further guests.
Okay, this is clearly not Therion then. But I would like to roll an insight check just to see, like, how he's...
So whoever this person is, they seem very surprised to see someone with golden glowing eyes. A part of that is probably the fact that your eyes are quite golden. In fact, more so than you would suspect more so than anyone in this facility. You are level 6 at the moment, which means you are more experienced and you are more of a warrior than everyone in this, church combined. They probably have 1 or 2 clerics, maybe 3 if the Archimandrite's one as well, but none of them would be particularly powerful or they would not be here. So he's probably surprised on that. He's also probably surprised on your weaponry. There's a lot of valid reasons to be surprised at your presence. And a little bit worried. Like, these are normal reactions to seeing someone with 2 mithril weapons and golden glowing eyes show up.
My face seeing someone with like $1 billion weaponry walking around.
Yeah, it's just a lot to encounter immediately. So, he is surprised, but that's not super surprising.
Just don't mind.
I can go get the Archimandrite if you'd like.
No. I'm following
are
up
you
on the
sure?
investigation. Quite sure. I'll
Okay.
talk to him when I need to.
But of
right
course.
now, I'm just looking around.
Are you an inquisitor?
I was.
And
Currently, I am a... Fuck, I'm forgetting the name.
judge.
A judge of the Empire.
He'll nod and say, I see. Well, he extends his hand. I'm Iridion.
Iridion.
Yes.
Very nice to meet you.
If there's anything you need, I would be happy to help.
I'm just getting the lay of the land for now. Your other Hira monk, who is he?
He points towards the other monk on the line and says, that's Xenion?
Xenion?
Yes.
Is there another one of you?
Are you referring to Therion? He's not here any longer.
Oh? I was told
He seems confused that you don't know this. But he'll continue to answer slowly. Yes, he ran off. He eloped, more specifically. The Archimandrite reported it to the Ecclesiarch.
The Ecclesiarch? And now I did hear there was an Ecclesiarch that passed away.
Yes.
What was his name?
Ecclesiarch Proteon visited here a couple of months ago to see our progress in converting the locals. He didn't send you?
Nope. No.
Oh.
Is there a history check I could do of a guy named Ecclesiarch?
Yeah,
Proteon?
This would be relatively obscure knowledge, so let's do a religion check.
Okay. Religion.
It'd be like asking, do I know the specific cardinal that operates out of Buenos Aires? No, you don't know the specific name, but based on what you've heard here, you kind of know who he is. He is the Ecclesiarch of Transpontar Solaria. That makes him one of the highest-ranking religious officials in the Empire. There's only 10 of them. There's only 10 Ecclesiarchs. So he's pretty high up there. He probably just swung through for a couple of days, made sure they weren't, wasting his money, and then left. It's not uncommon for the Ecclesiarch to do that. Though, this is in enemy territory, so that makes it a little bit more rarer, but you don't know how long this church has been here, so who knows.
Well, thank you for that information.
He'll nod. And, where do you head next?
Yeah, I guess I'll talk to the head of the... I want to use a divine sense.
Okay. Yeah, you take a couple of steps away from him. Roll me a perception check. This is not for the divine sense. That just works. Okay, yeah. You cast divine sense. Put it in chat. I don't remember the range on it.
I believe it's 10 feet. It's
Does
not
it go through walls, or is it just things in the room with you? Doesn't actually open your awareness to detect such forces until the end of your turn. That is not behind total cover. So in the room with you, so this includes the whole of the almshouse, there is no undead, celestial, or fiends.
As I walk into the... Is it just it happens and then it's over?
Correct.
Okay.
If you want, you can cast it when you're standing in the doorway between the almshouse and the main temple area. Either way, in both cases, there is not a hint of evil in either of those rooms. Well, a hint of undead celestial fiends, because that's what it detects.
Right.
So -1 use.
Detect good and evil. What does this do?
Unfortunately, not what you think it does.
Right.
It doesn't actually detect evil alignments. It detects things not from this world. If I recall correctly.
If there is an aberration, celestial, fey, fiend, or undead within 30 feet, this is just a worse divine sense.
It is, but remember, divine sense is limited and only available to paladins. Detect evil and good is available to a bunch of other classes.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, once you run out of divine... Also, I think the detect good and evil lasts for, time.
It's concentration up to 10 minutes.
Yeah, so it doesn't just blip and end.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll talk to the cleric again.
The mother down at the fire?
Yeah.
Okay. As you walk through the chamber a second time, this time you're, keeping an eye out, looking at things. You're on the 3rd level as you walk to go down to the 1st level, and you pass one of these alcoves with the little statues in them. And you notice, Primius doesn't know that much about religion yet. He'll get more into that as he continues to serve as a judge. But you know the basics. The Almighty is a trinity. There's 3 holy forms. There's the office of Emperor, Aurelian Domitus Sol, and then the actual Almighty. All 3 of these being different facets of a triune god. There are 3 statues on the 3rd tier, and then there's one in the middle of the room, which means there are 4 statues here, which means one of the statues probably shouldn't be here, at least based on your understanding of religion.
There he is. Yeah, I'll walk up to the mother and say, why are there 4 statues?
He'll look at you and say, oh, that's the Tetrarchy.
The Tetrarchy?
Yes, the 4 divine faces.
My understanding is that there's 3.
There are many of the Orthodox sect that believe that, yes.
Can you expand on this 4th?
Sure. As you may know, all other religions in the world are just emanations, flawed emanations of Aurelian soul worship. Out here on the plains, they worship their nature spirits, not knowing that they are in fact worshipping the creations of Aurelian soul. In my studies, we read of the elves in the Nezarene desert who also worship a pantheon, unaware that in truth they are worshipping Aurelian soul. Through the efforts of the great esotericists, we've discovered a 4th face of Aurelian soul, unique and special.
Hold on, I'm writing this down. They believe...
Keep in mind, by the way, because we're back in time now, you also still enforce religious law. You're not just enforcing secular law anymore.
Yeah, so, but my religion...
Correct, you don't know enough to really do it, but theoretically, you can enforce it.
Yeah, theoretically, I could be like, you're fucking dead. Though currently, I don't know if Primius knows enough about that just to be like,
Maybe not yet. I would say probably not yet.
I'm writing down all the reasons to see if there's a tipping point of like...
Yeah, that's fair.
I also don't think she answered my question of who the 4th face is.
Not really, no.
Oh, and can you highlight who these 4 faces are?
Yes, there is, of course, the Almighty. She gestures towards the statue next to you, the kind of like cringing, anorexic man with the humped spine. Almost looks like a hunchback. Then she gestures towards one of the tiny statues in the alcove, which again, you cannot see, it's way too dark, but she points towards it and says, that there is Aurelian Domitus Sol, wearing his diadem of victory when he was first crowned emperor. She gestures towards another statue. That there is a throne to represent the office of emperor. And then she gestures towards the one you walked past on your way to the lowest level. And that there is the crooked man, the 4th face.
I felt like it was going to be something like that. Is like, and here's the obvious 3. And there is Goober McGee, our favorite little guy.
Problem?
It's not even like... It's not even like, yes, and here's like the spirit of Aurelian soul. Like, it's just like, and here's some random bum we found off the street. God, how we love our random bums. Tell me a little bit more about the Crooked Man. I'm unfamiliar.
It doesn't surprise me. I think it took the work of some of our most talented theologians to uncover his existence within the text of the Summa Theologica. How well versed are you on that text?
I presume, based off of what we've said, he's like fairly a novice at the moment.
I mean, yeah, you were given the orthodox, like, this is the Verusian Creed, follow it, don't stray from it, but you weren't reading, like, sections of the Summa Theologica to find the textual evidence of your belief system. You were just told it, and you're like, sure.
Very much orthodox, but still much a novice at it.
She nods, and she'll stand up and approach the statue of Aurelian Soul. She will go to its base where there's a book, which she will pick up and walk over to you. And she'll flip through the pages till about the halfway point. The Summa Theologica is not a narrative, which is very important. It is a series of essays written by Toma Capdiosis about what he thinks Aurelian Soul is. So it's not like the Bible where like it tells a clear story of like, this is a guy, this is what happened. So she'll flip to a particular passage in the Summa Theologica, and she'll point towards a particular line of text. Your mythos is obviously very good, so you can read it despite its archaic tone. And it says something along the lines of, "And so the Almighty moved with an invisible quickness, and his spirit carried onto the earth his will." And she points towards that line and says, "All throughout the text, there are mentions like this, that an invisible force, something that we cannot see and yet acts, something which carries out miracles on this place and yet we cannot experience, is all around us. This has various names and various movements, but it has been revealed to us, our sect, through divine revelation, that the title for this force, which operates on behalf of Aurelian Soul, is none other than the Crooked Man."
Okay, out of character, isn't that like, didn't we talk about how that's like the spirit of Aurelian Soul, not so much?
Yeah, but that's not considered a core part of Aurelian Soul theology. That's like some fringe shit.
But that, I thought that's why there was three. There was Aurelian Soul.
No. The core, the three are, this is important. The three are the office of emperor, like just being the emperor makes you a god. Then the original emperor, Aurelian Dominus Soul, and then the Almighty himself. There's none of this spirit bullshit in core. In like Orthodox Aurelian Soul worship, the emperor is God literally. Like, there's no other interpretation. So, yeah. None of this spirit bullshit.
As we stand by the depiction of Aurelian Soul, is like, no, why does he look like this? He's much more famished than I've seen.
Yes, you've probably seen an image of him that many Mythosians wish to project, but in the text, Capdiosis speaks to the moral decay of the people of his day, those who did not recognize Aurelian Soul as creator, but saw him only as a member of a wider pantheon, a god of the sun, not of all creation. This depiction here is a beautiful thing. We commissioned it from a local artist. It depicts the state of the world today, and more specifically the people here in Donoslaski and what they are doing to Aurelian Soul by not following him. It's a harrowing thing.
When was it commissioned?
Oh, back when the church was established about a decade ago.
Heresy Commission 10 years ago. I see. And there was something I wanted to ask her. It was, oh right. Keep mentioning something. These things were revealed to you from divine revelation. Can you tell me who this was specifically revealed to and how?
Yes, the first of the visions that led to the creation of our sect was received prior to the Light Wars by a very well-known theological scholar named Exandrius. At the time, there was some suspicion regarding his visions, but after an inquisitorial investigation, it was determined they were genuine from the Almighty. After that, there's been various writers, those who upon their deaths received visions and contributed it to our corpus of knowledge, and most recently our Archimandrite upon his death also received a vision from Aurelian Soul.
I'm sorry, what was the name she said? Who was the first to get the vision?
Exandrius, which you know the name of because he's quite famous. It'd be like saying Moses. Like, he is a very core figure in recent Aurelian Soul history because he was burned at the stake by the Capdiosan Church prior to the Light Wars, and he was revived on the stake. And so the audience was like, oh, fuck, we just burned someone alive that Aurelian Soul brought back. That's not a good look for us. And so while there was a lot of suspicion prior to that burning, they were like, well, I guess he's right, because why else would he be brought back on the stake? It's just very strong symbology. I will say, this conversation is getting a bit away from your religious understanding. She's starting to hit upon things where you're like, well, I don't know if that's true or not true.
Yeah.
And even if you had the Summa Theologica, it would probably take you years to get to her level of, like, immersed in the lore.
Yeah, I didn't even write any of that down because I was
That's
like,
completely fair. That's completely fair.
The only thing I understood was the Archimandrite saw something, so I was like, well.
Yeah, she did say that, yeah.
Do you mind if I speak to your Archimandrite?
Of course. I believe he's in his office, but he can make time for a judge.
Thank you, Mother.
And she'll kind of gesture towards, as I mentioned before, there were 3 people in the room. One of them was doing an offering. He's not here anymore. He finished his offering while you were in the alms house. The other 2, though, that were up at the statues in the 3rd tier, she'll gesture towards one of them. It's clearly a local volunteer. And she'll say to him, "Can you please guide our guest here to the Archimandrite's office and let him know that he should speak with him right away?" And the local will kind of give a nod. She said all that in Tibrashan, by the way. This local clearly does not speak Mythos. And they will guide you back up to the 3rd tier. You walk past the statues, and now that you're actually looking at the 3 different statues on this tier, because it's easier to see once you're outside like the light of the fire, the statues here are a man wearing a crown, an empty chair, and then a guy dressed in like silken clothing with a scimitar at his waist and really weird looking facial hair. So it's relatively obvious which one's the crooked man based on their depictions in these statues. Roll me a perception check as well as this person guides you to out of the fire chamber.
Hold on, I'm just gonna read.
Sure. As you're walking to the Archimandrite's office, you notice that the walls of this room have a kind of pattern carved into them. It's very subtle. It's not until you're like walking right past the wall that you notice it. They have this like spiral pattern carved into it, and the entire interior of this room has this very subtle spiral pattern carved into it. You're not super familiar with internal architecture of churches, but it's rather striking. Not in like a freaky way, but like it's artistry. It would take so much time to actually carve spirals into every single surface of the interior of the room.
Curious.
And with this local guiding you, you make your way into the kind of labyrinth that is the administrative section of the church. It's not pretty. None of them are. Like this is a utilitarian space to live in. So you head through narrow corridors. You head into another narrow corridor. You head to just a normal wooden door. It has no plaque or anything. And when it's opened, you're immediately deposited into a very tight office space. Churches very rarely spend very much on their offices, except for the Department of Faith. They spend a fortune, but this is not one of those. And inside the room, there are 2 people. One of them is seated behind the chair at the back of the room. Based on his hat, you can tell he's the Archimandrite. It's a little circular thing called a pilum. And then seated across from him is a man in black robes with golden accent marks and golden eyes, the other presbyter. And the 2 of them were looking on a book, which you almost immediately recognize as the Summa Theologica. It's the right size. It has like the lettering, all that stuff. And within a moment of the door opening, the man behind the desk will look up and see your silver or mithril weapons and see your glowing eyes and say, "Oh, hello."
Hello, Archpresbyter?
Archimandrite, but that's all right.
Right.
He'll stand up and head across the room, and he has a golden holy symbol around his neck, and he'll go to shake your hand and say, "Inquisitor, I presume."
Judge.
Interesting. Please have a seat. And he'll kind of wave off the person who guided you here and close the door behind you.
Can I get a good look at him before he leaves?
The person who guided you here?
No, the guy. Oh, he's waving off the guy who led me here, not
Correct.
the other person.
Oh, yeah. The other priest is still there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a seat.
There's the Archimandrite.
Yeah, he even looks like a heretic.
What the fuck? He's just an old man. Yeah, he'll sit down across from you and he'll close the Summa Theologica and say, "Well, it's my pleasure to introduce you. This is Father Ascarion. I am Archimandrite Zarion. What is your name?"
Primius.
You haven't taken a church name.
Since I am not fully within the church, and I am in charge of the empire, it is not my place to take a full name of the church.
Fair enough, I suppose. When was your revival?
it was like a year ago, right? 1 year. I am. And yourself? Very. These things happen. I don't. Yes. Well. Yeah. You get a bit Aki slush. Well, I just got a notice to check in on the place. There have been slight oddities that were reported, but nothing seems too out of the ordinary. I did talk to the mother a couple minutes ago, and she mentioned you had a revelry of sorts about this crooked man. You mind telling me about them? What kind of judge would I be if I didn't look down every bit of information I could? I was told that Ecclesiarch did come by to validify this. Understandable. That is out of character. That is a bit weird how he didn't get the okay before publishing these and like making the changes. Odds. Permission to treat the witness as hostile. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Almost like they did something to him, or he's just as corrupt as, you know. Yes, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and Dave. Dave's my favorite. Right, but the ecclesiarch came, saw that, and was like, "Yeah, that's chill." Would Alright, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and think on this. Let's fucking go! Waiting. Something. Guys, Alex called me a piss boy, and he abuses me. No,
Okay,
I'm
now
not
it's working
telling
again.
you.
All right, welcome back to Pax Mithdosica. My mic was having problems. Well,
He didn't deny it.
so, oh god, now I just wondered if it had problems for the last hour. Okay, I'm gonna hope it didn't. Anyways, welcome back.
me talking.
Oh, that would be so unfortunate. Well, we're back. You are discussing with the Archimandrite. He has, said everything he said. It was recent enough. We don't need to recap the whole thing.
Right. Alright. I guess the only question I would have left for him is I was told one of your Hyrule monks got eloped a while ago, and you have yet to get that replaced. I was wondering your thoughts on this, or what happened.
Well, it was an unfortunate thing. The Hyrule monk, well, he was loaned to us by the ecclesiarch after his visit. He saw that we were doing good work and we lacked manpower. But Therion didn't fit in here. He had trouble making friends amongst his colleagues. I believe he wrote a letter to the ecclesiarch. There was a lot of stress in his life, and around 2 months ago, he absconded from his duties, and we haven't seen him since.
Did he leave a letter of some kind, or?
No, he did not. There were rumors amongst the congregation that he had eloped with a local, but I don't believe them. We've never met anyone who reported this. There's no sign of him within the city. I suspect that he simply left.
I see. Very unfortunate. When was that?
About 2 months ago.
You haven't reported this?
What is there to report?
I mean, you would need a replacement for him, no?
No, we operated with 5 staff for the last 10 years. The additional Hyrule monk was only a gift from the ecclesiarch.
Okay, this is out of character. I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah.
I don't know if that adds up, because weren't they sent here with 6?
They were sent here with 5.
They were sent here with 5. Okay.
Yeah. According to your notes, they were supposed to have 6, but clearly those notes have not been updated.
Okay. That's new information to me. I'm sorry to hear that.
He nods. We did fine without him. It's a shame, but he, like I said, there were adjustment difficulties, so.
I understand. Well, I mean, might be back in a bit, but thank you for complying with my questions.
Of course.
I will stand, and I will move down. How is the other guy?
He's been dead silent the entire conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he looking normal? You're just like one.
I mean, yeah.
So
he has, he has very softly glowing golden eyes. He has, closely cropped hair. His robes are a little bit unique, but like that's totally allowed. Once you're a presbyter, you can kind of dress however you want as long as it's professional. Because you were chosen by Aurelian Soul. You don't need to like prove yourself by wearing some weird ass robes. You can wear whatever you want.
I'm wearing my jammies into the church.
Okay, maybe that's not professional, but weirder things have been worn. I'll put it that way. But yeah, his hands are just kind of doing the thing like where he has these long drooping sleeves and his hands are like holding each other, so the sleeves connect, so it looks like he doesn't have arms. You know the thing.
Yeah.
And he's just been sitting in his chair staring at you. I mean,
yeah, he's just been listening.
Yeah, I don't know what else. Yeah, it's not weird that he's looking at you. You're the one talking.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Plus, these are fellow Mithdosians you're dealing with. These aren't like,
Yeah. to rations.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll leave the room.
Sure. Yeah. You exit out in the hall. The person who brought you here is nowhere to be seen. So either, the Archimedrite must trust you to make your own way back. Not like it's that far. It's only a couple turns.
Are there doors on the way back?
Yeah, multiple.
Like, are there? Okay. Once I'm out of earshot of, actually, while I'm on the other side of the door, can I make like a perception check to see if are they like talking once I leave?
Yeah, they are.
Can I try and like listen in?
Yeah, roll a perception check. Also roll a stealth check.
Oh shit. Oh god, he's wisdom based. He has high passive perception. Fuck.
Yeah. As you step out of the room, you turn around, the board kind of creaks, which isn't that, that doesn't instantly blow your cover. It would also creak if you were walking away. And you listen in, and you hear, the other guy, Father Iscarion, says, well, that was unexpected. And then the Archimedrite kind of cuts him off a little bit. Not a lot, but like slightly, and says, yes, well, the Almighty always gives us surprises. We should inform Mother Lunion and the Hieromonks that we have a guest. We want him to be very well taken care of. I don't think we have any extra rooms, and this is gonna go on for a while, so just let me know when you want to stop listening.
as soon as like they're like saying that, I'm just gonna slip away.
Shame that they didn't start explaining their clearly evil plot.
Yeah.
Shame that they're just somewhat normal people. Shame.
Damn, I wish I could like kill some kids while he's.
Yeah, I
like,
know.
here.
It's almost like they just worship Aurelian Soul and they love him or something. Weird.
Sure.
Well, you leave the hallway and do you return back to the fire chamber?
I'm gonna start looking in some of these rooms.
Okay, yeah, you go to the left, open a door, you find the sleeping chambers for what is probably one of the presbyters. Like, this is clearly one person's bedroom. They have little effects on the wall. You can see a little, 3-inch tall statue of Aurelian Soul. This is a more standard one, so they probably got it when they were back in Mithdosica. There's also a Summa Theologica here that has, little, oh my god, what are they called? The corners of the pages are folded. I thought there's a dog-eared. There it is. The pages are dog-eared, so the person's marked out their favorite passages in their personal copy. There is a bookshelf with 3 books on it, which for an individual is pretty good. That's 60 gold right there. So they're kind of.
Once I'm out of earshot of those guys, I'm gonna cast Detect Good and Evil because that shit lasts for a bit.
Correct, and it's not visible, so
yeah,
pretty good. Let me go read Detect Good and Evil. Is this the one where it does work through walls or no?
1 foot of the spell can penetrate most barriers, but is blocked by 1 foot of stone.
3 feet of wood. That's okay. So this penetrates walls 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a fiend within 30 feet of you.
I'm gonna leave the room.
Okay, you leave the room.
And it's not like I'm gonna walk away from the Archmagus or whatever.
The Archimedrite?
Yeah, the room where they're meeting in.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to... You walk away from him. But to be clear, once you're 30 feet away from that room, you're basically just in the fire chamber again. It's just... Right. It's not that big.
My point being is to see if, the fiend, leaves.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, by the time you get into the fire chamber, there is no longer a fiend. Yeah.
Okay. So there is something, but so I'm gonna walk back.
Okay.
As I walk back, I want to see if I can notice when exactly it enters the range.
I mean, you can, but measuring out what is exactly 30 feet inside of a room with inside of an administrative area with twisting hallways and stuff, I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but it's borderline impossible.
Yeah, it's very hard
to figure out when your crows fly exactly 30 feet away from and remember, if there's 3 walls in a row, that would block it because that is now 3 feet of wood. So, we're talking I'll put it this way. Clearly, there is something in the administrative part of the building that has a fiendish aura to it. What exact room it's in, I think, is going to be borderline impossible to determine with this spell. Divine Sense would be a lot easier, because I think Divine Sense tells you exactly where it is, but it doesn't work through walls.
Does Divine Sense? Hold on.
I think you should check, but I'm pretty sure it does, yeah.
I don't think we ruled it that way.
I think we ruled it previously as a smell. Like, you can't tell exactly, but the strength of the smell changes. Because I remember when we were in when we were in the bramble patch, you couldn't figure out exactly where Hetagal is, but you could smell aberration as being pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the type. Same radius, tech presence as any other place or object.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But you'd have to be in the room with the thing, because any wall would block it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's something to write down. Fiend detected with detect good and evil spell.
So maybe the Archimandrite's a little bit sus, but let's not go overboard.
Okay, so maybe the Crooked Man is kind of
well, no, because you were in the fire chamber where the statue of the Crooked Man is, and nothing happened. Checkmate, Wibble.
Okay.
Checkmate.
Checkmate, right?
Checkmate.
Was that the Archimandrite's sleeping quarters that I was in earlier?
It's not like it was labeled, but you would reckon probably not.
Okay.
His would probably be nicer than that.
I want to look into other sleeping quarters.
Sure. So you go back to the hallway you were in before where you looked in the first one. You open up a second door. As you do this, the door to the Archimandrite's office open, and Father Iscarion steps out. And so from his perspective, you're in the same hallway as the Archimandrite's office, and you are looking into someone's bedchamber. It'll just kind of give you a confused look. The room you're looking into is, once again, quite nice. It's actually nicer than the previous room you looked in. Here, there's a proper bed with looks to be a feather pillow. The bookshelf has like 10 books in it. And Father Iscarion will kind of let the silence hang for a second before he says, "Can I help you?"
Silly me. I've gotten lost. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't believe you, but he'll just nod and say, "All right. Did you want to go back to the fire chamber?"
Yes, that would be great for me.
He nods. And, yeah, he'll walk to the door in silence. He's not a very talkative fella.
Yeah, I don't care.
And he will, open the door to the fire chamber and gesture you in.
Yeah, I'll go there. Cool. When he entered 30 feet, did this smell, or did I detect a fiend?
When you are in the administrative area, you were almost permanently detecting it. It's not like when he opened the door, you started to detect it and hadn't before. Again, right, it's just not that big.
Right, but as we leave, I was wondering if the fiendish...
I see what you're saying. Yeah, when you entered, no. Around, so basically, from your perspective, it's fiend. He opens the door, you guys have that little interaction. You take like 5 steps, no fiend.
But we're both in the
administrative area, yeah.
Right, and there's no fiendish origin?
Correct.
And someone who's under, like, I can't, like, go up to, like, someone worshipping, like, a demon and use it and then be
No, because they're not literally a fiend. They're just, doing that.
You're right.
I will say, though, in previous editions of D&D, Detect Evil and Good was fucking crazy, because it detected alignment, which is borderline, like, thought reading. But it doesn't do that anymore, so...
Me being able to know the intentions of someone based off of...
Yeah, even when they don't fully know it, yeah, it was a very wacky spell in 2nd edition.
Me looking at someone being like, "You're evil," then being like, "What?"
Yeah, and you're like, "You're cosmically evil, I am now morally justified in killing you." You are aligned with the forces of cosmic evil.
He's like, bro, I don't even know what I'm worshiping. What's going on here? Yeah. Who do I brutally interrogate now?
Well, you got 5 options. Or you could also talk to local authorities, you know, the Tebrashans, some of the people who attend the church, the prince. I don't know. Lots of options.
Why would I trust them?
Why would you trust anyone here? You just detected a fucking demon.
It's true. That is true.
Like, this is probably the first demon you've detected in your entire life, and it just disappeared on you.
That's probably horrifying.
Yeah, it is.
There's cosmic evil somewhere within 30 feet of you.
Now it's gone.
Now it's gone.
Yeah, that's scary, man.
Yeah. What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, so you're like sitting on the 3rd tier of the fire chamber at one of these offering tables, and you know, you're trying to think through what to do next, and your eyes are just kind of wandering. And the longer you look in this fire chamber, the more you notice little things. Like, for example, in a normal temple, offerings are immediately put into the flames, completely consumed. At this temple, they leave them on the rim of the brazier for a while before burning them. It's like a very small difference, but it's like, why? Why are they doing that? You also notice, as you're sitting here, that you watch Mother Lunion pushing in the offering that the guy did earlier into the flames, and the prayer that she gives is different to the usual prayer. She says, "Almighty, we humbly beseech your boundless wisdom and ever-shifting favor to guide us through the labyrinth of destiny." You don't know what the fuck a labyrinth of destiny is. Like, what is that? What is she, like, what does that mean? There's just a lot of little things that are making you deeply disconcerted.
Yeah, now I'm noticing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use the most of these 10 minutes, and I'm going to just continue to walk around.
Yeah.
I guess I'll talk to a local, just ask them how staying here is and what
in the
what they
alms
do.
house, because there's none in the fire chamber at the moment.
Yeah, in the
Okay,
alms house.
yeah. You walk over to the dining room. Like I said before, not all the people here seem particularly poor, or at least not like literally homeless. So are you going to talk to one of the urchins, like one of the young people, orphans who stays here? Are you going to talk to one of the moderate looking off people? What's your target?
I guess an orphan,
Sure.
because they would, my impression is they would seem much more.
Yeah, you walk over to a table of 4 young boys. It's like 2 in the afternoon, so they're eating a pretty late lunch. They clearly are, you know, not doing great. They have like dirt stains and things like that. They're all talking very loudly in their local dialect of Tebrashan, which is actually pretty hard for you to parse because it's so localized and slang heavy. But you sit down at the table and they all go quiet. And one of them kind of looks at you, maybe the most talkative of the group, the leader of the group, who knows, but he'll look over at you. He has a little cut underneath his like eye, like just on his cheek. And he'll say in Mythos, he's pretty good at it actually. Yes, father?
I'll give a chuckle and say, I am no father.
He
I
looks at you
was
really
wondering-
confused.
I was wondering if I could ask you boys a couple of questions. Of course.
Are you speaking in Tebrashan or Mythos?
I'll speak in Ration.
Okay. They all kind of roughly get what you're saying. You can continue.
Of course, I'll make it worth my time. I'll suddenly jingle my coin purse.
They will look to each other, and the one who spoke in Mythos earlier will say in his like local variant of Tebrashan, Are you trying to get us in trouble, father? We're not accepting that from you.
No.
We can't take money on the
getting in
premises. You know the rules.
Is that a rule?
Not in temples you're familiar with, but clearly here it's a rule. It's not an unreasonable one. You don't want people like begging outside the doors of your house where poor people live. It just kind of makes the vibe kind of bad.
Look. Oh. I would never do such a thing, but if you don't want it, I'm fine not giving it to you.
He kind of scratches his head. he doesn't know what to do in this situation. He obviously wants the money, but he also doesn't want to get kicked out.
So, just have a couple simple questions. Can you tell me what it's like staying a night here?
Food's great. And another one of the kids says, they actually give us 3 meals. That's better than any of the other ones around the city.
And how are you treated here? Well?
One of them kind of shrugs, and the other 3 kind of look at him and a little bit annoyed that he's like so neutral about it. And the one who spoke up originally says, I mean, they got the rules, about the language we speak and about, how we conduct ourselves, but, I'll follow some rules if it means warm food in my stomach.
I know he's probably, like, a little scared of talking to someone like me, but is there any other readings I get? Like he's...
yeah, I mean, roll an insight check.
Insight.
Okay. Primius, not the religious side of Primius, but like the son of the Imperial family, a member of the Imperial family. The church is kind of a public relations tool to a certain degree. Like, the goal of the church literally is to make kids like this convert to Aurelian Soul and then view the Empire positively. So when he says, like, they treat us pretty well, the rules are harsh, but they'll feed us, like, you kind of believe that. I mean, there are people here, as you look around, that they're clearly have jobs. Like, these guys have nice shoes, they have vests on, but they're still getting free meals, because the goal of the church here is not to make a profit. It's not to, like, it's not nothing like that. It's literally just to make the perception of the Empire better. And it seems to be working on this kid, at least, and these other ones.
Alright. And your thoughts on Aurelian Soul at the moment?
This one throws them for a loop. The 4 of them kind of think for a moment, like they're clearly trying to transmit to each other through their looks, like what to say. And then one of them, who hasn't spoken up to this point, the one who shrugged earlier, he recites almost word for word the Summa Theologica and says, he is the creator of all and the finest specimen in all of existence.
I know what the text says, boy. But what do you think?
He kind of cringes away. He doesn't know how to answer that. And then the one who spoke in Mythos originally will say, I don't know. Feeds us. He looks a bit weird, but, my uncle, he kind of looks like that. He's a good fella, too.
I appreciate your honesty. Really, I do.
Yeah, I mean, they clearly don't think he's a god.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not trying to punish kids that I'm trying to...
Also from their perspective, like, for most Tabrashans, they have a whole pantheon of gods they believe in, so I'm sure he's one of them. He's just not, the master of the universe, creator of all, all that shit.
Yeah. Is there any other kid that hasn't spoken up yet?
I mean, one of them's been pretty quiet, but the 4, they've all kind of gotten a word in.
Yeah. I'll talk
mostly
to...
in Tabrashan.
I'll look at the kid who's spoken the least and said, what are your thoughts?
He kind of looks down at his plate of food and says, it's pretty good.
Oh?
It's good food, yeah.
And what of the Almighty?
I don't know. Bit creepy. The other one of them, like, slaps his arm.
Hey, there's no need for that.
The one who spoke in Mythos looks at you and says, yeah, there is. If they heard him say that, we wouldn't be getting food today. The rules are strict.
Well, the goal is to make you believe in him, not just repeat the words of the text.
Well, sure, I believe in him. I mean, he's feeding us. Your eyes are gold. Their eyes are gold. I'm sure he's real.
Yeah, convincing a child is kind of hard.
Well, yeah, also he's lived his whole life believing that multiple gods are real, so he's gonna be like, yeah, of course I worship Aurelian Soul. I also worship, the old man of the mountain and, the half-horse, half-man, and his whole little local sect. Me when I engage a 12-year-old in philosophical debate and it doesn't work.
Is there anything around here that off-puts you? Anything that scares you?
Roll me a persuasion check. the one who kind of mumbled earlier, he'll look around and he'll kind of go over to your side of the table, and the kid who's been speaking the most kind of gives him a narrow eye, wondering if, he's about to get them in trouble. But he'll whisper into your ear and say, I think that Father Iscarion is pretty mean.
I'll whisper back, what makes you say that?
He's the only one that hits us.
Is that, like, unheard of?
No, it's very normal. I hate to say it, but corporal punishment is, like, the default for educating children in the Empire.
Dang.
Yeah, I mean, if a kid's... Now, you don't know how extreme they go with it, but, for example, in your school, like, as Primius, when he was a little lad, if someone in one of his, like, symposium classes spoke into Brashen, that's, like, immediate, like, essentially assault, because... it's meant to cultivate, strong imperial Mithdosians for the future, not like slang terms, not like profanity, certainly not to Brashen. So it's not exactly uncommon.
Badly or just?
He kind of shrugs. I mean, he's not like limping, but also it's hard to say. I mean, the kid shrugs. Yeah.
Getting punched by.
Yeah, you can get some severe injuries and not have them be lasting. Yeah.
Yeah, me when someone 3 times his size hits him.
Yeah, exactly.
Force. Did it hurt?
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that, child.
He shrugs.
Anything? Any other?
He goes back to his side of the table. And they all kind of shrug. They're clearly getting a bit antsy to, like, get outside again.
Well, I won't take up too much more of your time. And I won't do that just because I don't want to get them in trouble.
Yeah.
So
I mean, as you stand up and the other kids scatter, you do notice that one of the Hyro monks was, like, from the food line was watching you. Not that that's, like, inherently suspicious, but at this point, I think you're paranoid enough that anyone looking at you is suspicious, so...
Yeah. I mean, like...
Yeah, the guy who introduced himself as Xenion, he was watching you in the kids' chat.
There it is. I'll give him a smile and a nod.
Yeah, he'll wave back at you and continue serving food to people. The lunch rush seems to start being, like, dying down, and so they're starting to, like, clean plates and pots and stuff.
Is there a moment in the day when it's just, like, the people who work here, like a very slow...
Oh, yeah, I mean, it won't take long. So you got here at around 1 p.m., then you did all your chatting, then you came into the... Originally, you went in here at, like, 1:30, now you're here at, like, 2. In the next 30 minutes, all that's left of, like, people here will start to filter out. Those who actually need to spend the night here, they have to go outside. They're not allowed to be in here during daytime hours unless it's for food. And then the people who have jobs and were just in here for a free lunch, they also go back because they got work to do. So pretty quickly, the room will empty out, and all that will be left is volunteers, though even they start to leave. This is probably their lunch break or something. So pretty soon, it's just the 2 Hyro monks and a couple of volunteers.
I'm gonna go to the Hyro monk and I guess I'll say I'd like to request that you bring your other 4 co-workers into the almshouse.
Xenion will give a nod, and he'll kind of, like, dry off his hands against a towel. And he doesn't really speak. He doesn't ask for clarification. He'll tell Aredion as he walks past him, and then he'll leave. And, it takes, like, 5-10 minutes. Someone has to, go be placed on the fire. It is basically a rule that someone needs to attend to the fire at all times. So one of the volunteers will be sent over there. And the Archimandrite is the last to arrive, but soon enough, the 5 or so of them will be assembled in a kind of open area of the almshouse in the dining area. And the Archimandrite will look to the others, and when they kind of look back at him, he'll look towards you and say, Judge?
Hello, Archimandrite. Well, I feel like I've almost completed my investigation here. I would just like to finish up with a simple zone of truth, and if that looks all good, I'd like to carry on my way.
He nods and says, Could I speak to you in private for a moment?
Should I do? right?
And he'll just gesture you over towards the cloth partition area. It's not super secure, but, it's enough to break line of sight and muffle any conversation that you and him have. He'll kind of part the cloth and step inside. No one's cleaning it anymore, so it's just you and him. And he'll kind of lower his voice and say, "Look, I didn't want to tell you this out of fear, but if we're under zone of truth, it's going to come out anyway, so I think that I'd rather just tell you myself rather than being forced to.
Go on.
What I told you about the crooked man in my vision, those were lies. I never saw the crooked man, but there's been pressure from the prince and one of my presbyters to force me to talk about it."
You tell me more about this presbyter? Has he been acting out recently?
He? No, it's Mother Lunion.
Mother Lunion?
Yes. Did you ask her where she's from? She's from some rural village out here on the plains. She barely even speaks Mythos. She keeps this thing down in the crypt. Temples like ours aren't even supposed to have crypts meant for cremation, but she said that to appeal to local cultural sensibilities, we should build a crypt. So, well, I went along with it, and now she and several of my parishioners, after evening sermons, they go down there.
Her and who else?
People who attend my church.
Well, thank you for your honesty. However, I've had suspicions that there is a demon about.
It must be that thing in the basement, then. Why else would they all be going down there after evening sermons?
Cast a detect evil and good spell, and, well, sure enough, the familiar scent turned up.
I don't have that spell. My spell is mostly healing. I bet if I told one of the hieromonks to distract her, and we went down to the basement, we could kill whatever that thing is. I've never slain a demon before, though. I've never even seen one.
Neither have I, but you must do what is right.
I understand. I don't know about the hieromonks, but I think Father Iscarion can be trusted.
Well, This is curious indeed. Should we start with Luna?
What about her?
Should we start with killing her?
My God, that just seems rather extreme.
Is it?
What if the thing in the basement knows when she dies? What if it does something?
In my time being a judge, the things that are more threatening are more enemies, not an enemy that knows.
He kind of swallows slowly and kind of nods. If it must be done.
Well, as we walk out, I want you to address your 4 compatriots, and as that happens, I'm going to walk behind her and cut off her head.
What am I supposed to say?
Point the finger. Tell them that the thing in the basement is a demon. It's the truth that will set you free.
There are volunteers there in the kitchen area.
Well,
don't you think it would be safer to distract her? Send one of the hieromonks to go take her on a tour around the city, go pick up some more ingredients? That would give us time to squelch the thing in the basement. Perhaps it's possessing her in some way.
That seems very obvious of our intentions.
Does it? She gets groceries every day.
I mean, I come out, I say, let's do a zone of truth. You take me in here, and then we walk out, and you're like, oh, by the way, go grab groceries.
No. We can do this. He's thinking. He kind of strokes his bushy beard. If we invite in Father Iscarion, talk to him about nothing for a little bit, then we can go out and say that your investigation is concluded, you're satisfied with what you found, and then I tell everyone we're going business back to normal. It's already around a little bit after lunch service, so normally the two hieromonks and her would travel and go get groceries. There's nothing odd about that. This time we could only send one of them, so we have more manpower, and then, once she's out of the building, me, Iscarion, one of the hieromonks, we go down with you into the crypts.
And then where would I go once I say my business
You
is
would simply
completed?
walk out the front door, and then once she's gone, walk right back in.
I have one more question for you.
Of course.
How do I know I can trust you?
Look, out on these plains, there's not much that you can trust. You can't trust the locals. You can barely even trust your fellows, because you don't know where they're from. But I see in you myself. I can hear in you your Mythos accent. I assume that you can hear mine. We're brothers of the same kind.
Is there... There's not really a way to, like oust someone like this, right?
I mean, you can try to insight, but...
Yeah, I think that's, like, the most I can do.
Sure. Alrighty, one moment. 16, oh wow. Gee, it used to make little pings when it rolled, and it doesn't do that anymore. Okay.
It does for me.
Oh, well, I don't hear the little whoop. Yeah, he'll nod and say, well, yeah, so I think you stare into his eyes, and what you see is what you're looking for. You see a fellow Mithdosian. There's no question on that. He's obviously from the capital. He knows, like, he has the accent to it. He has the affectation. He probably belongs to one of the great houses. He clearly, when he talks about Terratians, there's the same sense of, like, disdain that you carry with you and suspicion. He doesn't have, like, the I'm lying face, unfortunately. You're just gonna have to either take the argument or not take it.
Also, he did kind of, like, oust Luna immediately.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, he just confessed everything without a zone of truth. He's not hiding it, so... This is, like, I think the best deal I'm getting.
Sure, yeah.
Alright. We'll go along with it.
He nods. Alright. So we tell them that your investigation is done. You head into the fire chamber, walk out the front door. We'll deal with her, and then I'll have Iscarion fetch you once she's been sent off.
Right. Sounds good.
He parts the curtain. He walks over to the four assembled folks. It was pretty quiet. I mean, none of them are especially talkative. And he'll say, well, I spoke with the judge here, and I think that we've hammered out all details of concern in this investigation. Lord Judge, you can say it yourself.
Everything seems to be sorted out. I don't think there's any need for me to be wasting a second level spell on stuff like this.
Yes, spells of the second circle are rare indeed. You could save a man's life with that. So, we'll be returning to business as usual, and, well, I'll go see, our Lord Judge out. And, he, walks with you, to the door that leads into the fire chamber, and then he walks to the entrance of the fire chamber, and, Father Iscarion kind of trails behind, and once you guys are near the front entrance, Zarion will kind of wave over Iscarion, who will walk over, and he'll say, all right, Iscarion, as I'm sure you could tell, the Lord Judge found something. Those visits that Lunion was making to the crypt, we're going to investigate it. So I need you to go back, and the hieromonks and her should be getting ready to go get the evening's food. See if you can get Xenion to stay. Let Iridion go with her. And make sure to grab your holy symbol. We may need battle. And Iskarion, doesn't react very strongly. He just nods like he always does. And the two of you, Zarion and Muse, kind of stand at the front entrance of the building. And a very long couple of minutes pass. Zarion looks nervous, but, a normal reaction to the situation. And a little bit later, you can see, approaching from the darkness, the fire chamber, Iskarion and Hieromonk Xenion come. And the Hieromonk is equipped with a quarterstaff now, and Father Iskarion has a silver holy symbol around his neck, similar to yours. And Zarion looks towards you.
Are we ready?
I think so. I would reckon that you have more combat experience than the rest of us combined, so I thought perhaps you should lead the way.
I understand. Make sure not to trail off too far.
He nods, and he will cast light on his hand, so it starts to glow. And as you guys head through the fire chamber, he'll lead you to a trap door in the ground near the back of the fire chamber. And when he opens it up, this kind of stench of stale air passes up to you. And there's a ladder that leads about 10 feet down.
Yeah, I'll go down.
Yeah. You descend the ladder, and the room that you enter is actually relatively well lit by candles, and then when, the Archimandrite descends behind you, his light hand fills in all the corners. It is a grim sight, not because there's a demon in here or whatever, but because it's an ossuary, which, if you don't know, is a place where you put bones. It's kind of like a crypt, like where you'd put dead bodies, but instead of putting, like, fully formed bodies, you just put the bones. So in one corner, there's 50 skulls stacked atop one another. In another corner, there's rib cages forming a kind of, like, macabre artwork embedded into the walls. And there are 8 bodies, but there's a total of 12 alcoves, so 4 of them are empty. And you can see that within this crypt chamber, there is a hole in one of the walls that is covered up by planks. And once all 4 of you are down in the crypt chamber, the Archimandrite will point towards that opening in the wall and say, That's where she requested that we continue digging the tunnel. I've never been in there. I've heard voices from in there.
I'll walk towards it.
Yeah. It takes you a second to figure out, like, how to get into the tunnel, because, again, there's those boards covering it up, but you figure out that the boards are kind of like a fake covering. Like, they are very lightly nailed into the wall, but they're nailed together, so that you can kind of take the whole thing off and just set it to the side, and then, when you were trying to close it back up, it would only take, like, a hammer and a couple of seconds. So it's clearly meant to make people think that it's inaccessible, but be relatively accessible by someone who knows. But that all takes you a little bit to figure out, and while you are, the other 3 are kind of nervously twitching behind you. And it's dark. By the time that you actually manage to get the thing open, it is almost like pitch black inside of the tunnel, other than the light spilling in from the crypt that you're inside of. So, what is your method of light? Or do you want to rely on the Archimandrite's glowing hand? Because you'll have about 25 feet of vision, because he'll be behind you.
How big is the room?
It's a tunnel. It's not a room. It's a tunnel that leads somewhere. It's too dark to see.
I guess I'll ask him to give me the light.
Okay, yeah. He'll cast a light cantrip on what part of your, like, where?
I guess on my sword?
Okay, yeah, sure. On your longsword or your rapier?
I'm main-handing the longsword.
Okay,
so
then your longsword will start to glow with light, and immediately 30 feet of the corridor is illuminated, and it still continues. So it's quite long.
Alright, I will continue walking down.
Alright, now, you may be stealthy, but the other 3 are obviously not, so we're not even going to bother making a stealth check. Like, regardless of whether, they were telling the truth, whether they're lying, there's one thing that they were being truthful about, which is they have clearly not seen very much combat, because they are fucking horrible at sneaking. They are, like, hitting the walls. The Hieromonk is, like shaking with his quarterstaff. Like, these are clearly not combat-trained whatevers. And
one of them like just sneezes, just like.
I mean, literally, like that is the level of tomfoolery we're talking about here. These are not soldiers. And as you continue down the hallway, it's actually like there is no muttering, there's no noise, which is what Zarion mentioned hearing in the past. So maybe that's a good omen. Who knows? And as you continue down the hall, you step in. You're about 10 feet in now. And as you cross a seemingly arbitrary barrier, the sound completely changes in the span of one step. It goes from the bumbling sounds of the people trailing behind you to that disappearing and the only sound being muttering coming from ahead of you.
Is Divine Sense, is there like a noise to casting that?
I don't think so. No, because it doesn't
I think
have
it's
verbal
just like
components. Yeah.
No, it's just like I do it.
Yeah, you just do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
There is an aberration within 60 feet of you, and it stinks.
Holy, but not a fiend.
No, not a fiend.
Curious. But it's not Mother Luna, because she didn't turn up when I did the Divine Sense earlier. Curious.
By the way, when you look behind you, you can still see the other three, and they're all looking at you, but you cannot hear a single noise coming from them. The only thing you hear is muttering coming from ahead of you down the hall.
I'll continue to walk forward.
Okay. You walk forward and you watch, or I guess you hear, as each of the others kind of cross that arbitrary point in the tunnel, you begin to hear the sounds of their, like, bumbling. And the muttering ahead of you gets louder.
Yeah, I don't know what I'll do in this situation. I guess since I'll cast Shield of Faith.
Okay, that does cause more light, but obviously you already have the light cantrip, so you're not particularly dark in the first place. Yeah, so a dim barrier of glowing light surrounds you, and you hear kind of a gasp from Archimandrite Zarion.
Yeah, and I'll continue forward.
Yeah. You can see, about 30 feet ahead of you, on the very edge of your vision, the tunnel is opening up into a larger chamber. And the muttering, you now can actually figure out what it is. It's not like a person. It's not like a single person muttering. It is a chorus of voices muttering and saying, like, what to your ears kind of sounds like nonsense, or very, very quiet.
Okay.
Okay.
So, am I in, like, the opening yet? Or
No, you're still slowly creeping forward.
Yeah, I'll keep going.
All right. You continue forward until you reach the lip of the tunnel, because at the edge of that tunnel where it opened up into a larger chamber, there's like a 5-foot drop, and then there's the room beyond, which is a large underground natural cave. The harsh lines of hewn stone give way to the flowing walls of a natural cave, probably a cistern or something similar, because the walls are moist and the air is like thick with humidity. But none of the other details in the room draw your attention, because your eyes firmly look downward at the base of the pit, which is probably 10 feet lower than where you're standing, because there's things moving there. At first, your eyes kind of struggle to comprehend what you're looking at. You think it's like maybe a dozen creatures, like their bodies entwined as they move about on the ground. But then slowly, as your eyes start to match up, the flesh is pale red. It's like a dozen bodies kind of like merged together into this mass of flesh with dozens of eyes, dozens of mouths, tentacled appendages instead of arms or legs. And the whole thing, every mouth is moving, muttering, gibbering. It's a demon. You don't know what else it possibly could be. And I need you to make a strength saving throw.
Alright.
Alrighty. As you're looking out onto this horrific mass, someone gives you a very hard push from behind.
Ooh, yeah, that I kind of surmised that would happen.
And we are going to roll into initiative.
Oof.
Oof. That's pretty
at least
bad.
it wasn't on. Yep.
Do you recognize this creature? I think only one's ever appeared in Valoros.
Is it a Zorn?
No, it's a gibbering mouther. It's how Jackson lost his character in Limits Man.
Oh, shit. Well.
But you got God in your corner, okay? Also, you didn't just walk into the pit, like, voluntarily. You got pushed, so it's slightly different.
Yeah. They took their action, actually.
So true. Actually, I mean, they kind of did, to be honest. If the Archimandrite rolled before you, I'll consider that his action. Okay, so, I mean, it takes like half a second to figure out where you are. I mean, I assume you know this, but I'll clarify. It was the Archimandrite who pushed you in. And Iskarion, Father Iskarion, as his action, casts a spell, and you see a little space tears open, and an imp pulls its way through. To be clear, you have never seen a demon in your life, and in the span of about 10 minutes, you have gone from that to there is a creature, like one of the most horrifying things you've ever seen, and a literal demon with like the little horns and the curved tail just pulled its way through space. So it's not looking great, is the answer. But that is Father Iskarion's action, and now the gibbering mouther goes. So this basically just hearing its, as it awakens on this turn, it's not going to attack you because it's waking up, but as its dozens of mouths start to scream full volume, you need to make a wisdom saving throw, and you're gonna have to make one every turn. Okay, that is a pass, so I'm not gonna tell you what happens when you fail.
Fuck.
Alrighty. Oh, also, you need to make a strength saving throw because the floor around the gibbering mouther has started to merge with its body, so you're basically standing on its flesh. Alright, your movement speed is reduced to 0 because you failed the saving throw. The floor sucks at your boots and kind of starts to absorb you into it. The Archimandrite. Perhaps in a different situation, the villain would gloat that they finally got you into their trap, but he just makes direct eye contact with you and casts a spell on your head. Make a intelligence saving throw.
A lot of saving throws.
There's going to be a lot more. All right, that is a failure, so you take 12 psychic damage as you feel your brain starting to heat up, literally.
Ooh.
Alrighty. The imp, the nasty little bastard, flies over to you and is going to stab you in the head with its stinger. It's going to try at least. You do have a pretty high AC. That is a miss. You, even with your feet literally stuck to the ground, you managed to like Neo backwards and dodge the stinger headed straight for your head. The Hyro monk is going to push past the father and hop down into the depression of the cave and wield his quarterstaff defensively. And Primius, Cosius, Tiberius, Perusian, Verusian, Judge of the Empire, it is your turn.
Alright, I just found out the rapier is my main hand because it clearly has more.
Well, that's completely fine. In fact, I think it even says in your dual wielder feat you can like change the hands that you're wielding primarily as like a free action, so.
Okay, I'm going to 2 hits with my rapier on the imp.
Okay. First one hits, second one misses.
Yeah, and the third one's gonna be at the imp.
At the who?
Imp.
Okay, those all, the two, yeah, the first and last one both hit.
Well, now I know his AC.
True, yeah, true, good point. True, not wrong. So roll damage.
Unfortunately, it meets, not exceeds AC. Okay, so the first one I'm going to smite on.
Oh, I believe I know smite does double damage against certain classes of creature. Do fiends fall in that bucket?
I thought it was just undead, but we could check.
It's 100% worth checking. Fiend or undead?
Okay.
So you get an extra 1d8.
There's no global modifiers for this, so...
Correct, you're going to just roll the number. Just like if you're adding a normal level 2 spell, because the number of d8 scales in the spell you're using. So if you're just using a level 1 slot, you would roll like the rapier, and then you'd roll 3d8.
Okay, I'm going to roll 3d8.
Alright, so that's a level 1 spell slot, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Also, I'm going to fix your longsword real quick. Okay, it's fixed. Cool, so that is a total of 20 damage plus 14, so you deal 34 damage. With your first attack, you skewer the imp through the wing, and immediately it starts screaming full volume. Then you tear up your left arm carrying the longsword, and you stab it through the chest, and then as your blade is already plunged into its chest, this pulse of light passes along your blade and literally splits the imp into pieces, and it is dead.
Well, I have no movement. Well, I do have a bonus action.
You do? Well, your bonus action was attacking with your longsword.
Oh, that's right.
Indeed.
Well, that's the end of my turn.
Indeed it is. Father Iscarion, he will spend his action summoning the imp.
Oh.
And it will appear here again. It's clearly the same imp because it looks fucking pissed. Alright, it is now the Gibbering Mouther's turn. It is awake now, so it can actually take its turn. First of all, wisdom save and strength save.
Strength?
That's a pass, and that's also a pass. So you have no ill effects from the yapping or the flesh floor. And it will take 4 attacks against you, which sounds scary, but let's just say it's not very coordinated with its attacks. Only one of them hits, yeah.
I have 20 AC.
Oh, none of them hit. And you notice that mechanically it only has a +2, but in terms of how it's behaving, it's obvious why. It's thinking with like 50 different brains, so one part of its body is pulling this way, another is pulling that. This is the minds of, if it is the minds of a human, it's the minds of a dozen humans that are all fighting against the instincts of what actually to do. And the result is, it gets nowhere near you with most of its attacks. Only one kind of like bites right in front of your face. And now the Archimandrite is going to once again point at your brain without any, like, he has no dialogue, he just points at your brain and tries to make you have another stroke. So that's a intelligence saving throw.
Intelligence.
Oh, 18 psychic damage as once again your brain gets hot, your thoughts grow foggy, blood starts to leak from your ears, from your nose, from your eyes.
It's the saving throws that get you.
It's the saving throws that get you, and the intelligence ones especially. The imp will circle around you angrily. It'll say something in its bastard infernal language, and it will attempt to sting your head, which misses. And the Hieromonk will carefully advance forward to here, and at long range... Actually, I don't think quarterstaffs do have range. One second, let me check.
No, it has 5 feet.
Yeah, I also think it has 5 feet. So he'll just advance there and hold his quarterstaff at the ready. Your turn.
I'm gonna move towards them. I'll take 2...
Alrighty, so you move away from the Gibbering Mouther. It doesn't get reactions, because its brain is fucked. The imp, on the other hand, does. So it'll sting you, which misses. And as you go to move from this space to this space, what it really feels like is like the distance between you and the Archimandrite grows longer, because this activates folding geometry. So you moved about 10 feet. If you want to go to that last space that gets you adjacent to the Archimandrite, you have to move 30 feet to move there. So you'd have to dash, basically.
Well, alright. Sorry, buddy. It's the Archimandrite that summoned the guy, right?
No, that was Iscarion. This fella. The one that you can barely see.
This guy?
Yeah, that fella.
I see.
One. Actually, I'll just increase your
yeah.
vision so you can see better. But yeah, it was the quiet little priest guy.
Alright. I'm gonna annihilate this guy.
Okay.
The guy next to me.
Okay. Rip Hieromonk Xenion. That is a hit, that is a hit, and that is a hit. Alright, with your second attack, you decapitate the Hieromonk, and his body hits the floor, blood starts to pool around him. So you can redirect your third attack to the imp if you like.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Alright, you hit the imp, and he doesn't die. He is bloodied, but he's not dead. You slice through one of his wings, and he like plummets to the ground, but he remains alive. Angry. Okay, Father Iscarion is going to cut his arm for 4 damage, and he will fire an Eldritch Blast at your face, which misses. And where it hits the stone, it like cracks the stone completely. So that would have hurt quite a bit. Alright, the Gibbering Mouther's turn. First of all, make a wisdom saving throw. Alright, for the first time, you actually failed. So, wait, you have Aura of Protection, don't you?
Yeah.
Is that factored in, or not?
I don't know.
I don't believe it is, because I think your +5 would just come from your base stats. So let me go see what Aura of Protection does, numbers-wise. You get Charisma modifier, so you'd have +2, so let me quickly do something on your sheet. Bing, bong, bing, bing, boom, boom, bing, 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 bing. Okay.
I don't know how much that would change.
It makes
I
you
would have
pass.
taken 12. It took me. I would have taken 12 less damage on that.
Well, should have looked at your abilities, but this time I remembered, so it's fine.
Yippee!
Yippee! So you pass you don't get gibbered, whatever that means, and then you watch with, I would say, probably horror, I would imagine, as the gibbering mouther moves. It only moves 5 feet, and that takes like every ounce of effort that the creature can summon, but it does move, and one of its mouths is able to be within range of you and try to bite you, which fails. All right, the Archimandrite saw you basically rebound, like he saw you entering the folding geometry. So he will say, troublesome bastard. And he will cast Terror of Eternity. Now this doesn't just target you, this actually targets you, the imp, the gibbering mouther. So I will roll for them, but you need to make a wisdom saving throw. There's a non-zero chance this just kills the imp again, because the imp is not very tanky. Also, the gibbering mouther's immune to frighten. So, all right. So now let's roll damage. You take half of this. Oh no, you take nothing. Never mind. This is not a half damage spell. This just does nothing on a failure. So you take nothing. The gibbering mouther takes nothing. The imp collapses backwards as he dies again. Poor bastard.
What about the guy next to him?
It's a cone ability, so it was just in your direction. Yeah. But the imp dies, and then his body like just kind of dissolves. That Hieromonk is dead. And Primius.
Yoo-hoo!
Alright, you spend the full 6 seconds walking through the folding terrain, and by the time you actually get next to the Archimandrite, you feel sick to your stomach.
Die.
Power word, die. Alrighty, the first one hits, second one misses, third one hits.
I'm gonna use a second level smite on the first one.
Alrighty. Well, as your successful first attack, flaming with the power of Aurelian Soul, plunges towards his head, his body, actually he'll use both of his uses on this turn. So your 2 attacks here are going to have their damage halved, including the Divine Smite. As his body, impossibly quickly, his body, the bones snap and reorder themselves, and his body, moves around like a fast-moving whip. It still gets hit, but they're only glancing blows rather than, lethal strikes. So...
This is 3d8?
It would, if you're using a second level spell, yeah, it'd be 3d8, because he's not a fiend or undead. Plus that, and then plus the third attack, so that's 6 plus 2 plus 9, halved, and then 5 halved. So it's a total of 3 and 9. 11 damage onto the Archimandrite. You slice deep into his shoulder, and he grimaces, but all facade of, the scared little Archimandrite is gone. He's locked the fuck in, and he's not bloodied yet. He's ready to fight still. Ascarion is going to attack you with his sacrificial dagger and shoot an Eldritch Blast at your face, point blank. Both of which you dodge. Yeah, and he didn't spend his action resummoning the imp, so the imp remains gone. The gibbering mouther moves another 5 feet towards you, and you need to make a wisdom saving throw. That is a pass. You ignore the voices in your head, but you are now within 10 feet of him. Actually, it doesn't matter, because you're already in melee with the people you want to fight. It'll bite you once, which misses.
Missed.
And... Oh, I forgot I had this. Oh, but this would affect the other 2. I don't think it would do that ability, then. It does have a slight intelligence to it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, this thing is...
Well, yeah, it clearly does, because if it had no intelligence, combining the different minds that it's operating, it wouldn't even be able to move. It would just be pulled in every direction at once. So there's clearly some demonic presence or something that's guiding it, roughly, somewhat.
It can tell what, an ally from...
Yeah, exactly. Because that's I think in this game, that's intelligence 3. That's the lowest level of intelligence.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah. Okay, the Archimandrite is going to... Fuck. He already used that. Oh, bonus action, Shield of Faith. He'll do that. And then he'll do Mind Bleeding on you again. Intelligence saving throw. Alright, 13 psychic damage. At this point, your vision's starting to get a bit blurry, as this is the only thing that's been doing damage to you. You've dodged every attack except for it melting your brain.
Yeah.
And it's your turn.
On my turn, I'm gonna do the same thing on him.
Alrighty. You see him attempt to do the thing he did the previous turn, like having his body whip and dodge, but his, like, that maneuver did permanent damage to his body. Like, he cannot move that quickly anymore, and you see that his wrist, which is one of the things that moved quickly, there's like this big bulge in the bone now, like a spur. So even if he survived this, he would be permanently deformed. But your first attack hits. Alrighty.
Only 10.
Just does 10. Are you smiting?
Yeah, so I'll use a first level.
Alrighty. Toss jam.
Ooh. Sorry, I'm losing myself in all these.
Holy shit. Well, that is super bloodied. Yeah, you stab him through the chest. Light passes along the blade. For a normal person, you know, this would certainly have killed them, but you watch as he's a bit hardier than the average folk. His wound is not healing itself, but he can certainly heal his wound.
Well, I'm sorry to say, I gotta go to the bathroom again.
Alrighty, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Pax Mithdosica. We'll pick back up. Primius, it's your turn.
It's my turn again?
Wait, oh, you're right, you just went. It's Father Iscarion's turn. What a fucked situation it truly is for him. He will push the Archimandrite back further into the tunnel and take his place. And since it would be his action to shove and then move, he will make a bonus action attack against you with his sacrificial dagger, which misses. And the gibbering mouther will move 5 feet closer, and you will watch as its body makes contact with the Hieromonk, it gets absorbed into the mass, and you see a new mouth sprout from the creature. Wisdom saving throw. That's a pass. And it will get its full volley of attacks, though who knows. Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
Oh.
Alrighty, the 2 hungering mouths strike you. One hits you for 4 damage. You're cooked. And the other one hits you for 10 damage.
I'm at 1.
That's not good. Alrighty.
I gotta make a strength saving throw?
Indeed you do, yeah. That's a fail, so you are knocked prone as well. Primius, this is a dark moment. You know, you're in a basement of what's supposed to be a church. Here, there's only desecration. Zarion. Oh wait, you already used that,
He's gonna point at my head and kill me.
He can't see you. There's someone between you. Also, you're prone.
I'm prone?
Oh. Yeah, because you were knocked prone. Weirdly enough, it would have actually been better if you were not prone. It would have been better if you were still standing. He'll hold an action. I'll put it that way. It is your turn. You are at 1 HP.
Yeah, I'm not dying without it going down.
Well, you do have lay on hands.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I'll heal myself for 30.
Alrighty. At the brink of death. Brought back up to half. Alright, that's your action.
Yeah. Bonus action, stab this.
Are you gonna stand up first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, stab this stupid guy.
Alrighty. That's a hit. Smite or gnaw?
Nah, I gotta save it.
Alrighty. You strike him in the chest, and he is bloodied, but still standing. Alrighty. Father Iscarion, faced with a judge beyond him in strength, but basically having used... Oh wait, he can do this one. It will hit the gibbering mouther, but who gives a fuck? He'll cast a cone spell in front of him, unleashing an illusion of madness. You and the gibbering mouther both need to make wisdom saves. The mouther passes. You fail. You both take damage though. So you take 11. The mouther takes 6 psychic damage. Alrighty. You are lucky that the mouther is incapable of flanking. It does have some limitations to its to its abilities. First wisdom save, hopefully better than a 10, because you haven't once been affected by the gibbering yet. Well, I guess there's always a time for something. Roll a d8.
A D8, huh?
A d8 indeed. Alrighty. We'll talk about it when we get to your turn. It's then going to attack you 4 times. All of but 1, which miss. That's crazy good rolls. Wow. And you take 18 damage. What? That's a max damage roll too. That's crazy.
I'm at 2.
Alrighty. Zerion still cock-blocked. On your turn, the gibbering goes into effect. Essentially, you roll on a table to determine what action you must take on your following turn. And an 8 is actually a pretty good result, because you now have to take every attack that you can against a creature other than the gibbering mouther. Which is pretty easy for you, because that's just 3 attacks on Father Iscarion.
Well, can I do bonus action longsword and then move towards Father Iscarion?
You are already adjacent to Father Iscarion.
No, I mean, like, can I kill him and then walk towards him and then take 2 more attacks?
That would be acceptable, yeah. All that it determines, literally what the gibbering mouther thing says, is that you have to do this action. So you have to attack at least once on your turn.
Okay.
Other than the gibbering mouther.
Longsword guy in front of me.
That is a hit. All right. You stab Father Iscarion through the stomach, and for a brief moment, it looks as if he's going to hold his ground, remaining resolute in his fight against you, and then he tumbles to the side and falls out of your way.
Yeah, I gotta do what I can to live, so I'm gonna upcast Cure Wounds to heal myself.
Okay.
2nd level.
All right, 7 HP. It's not great.
I'm at 9. Nope, no it is not.
Those are quite bad rolls. All right, 9 HP. The gibbering mouther. For a moment, you can see its entire body almost get torn in 2. Whatever mind is managing to unite its constituent parts is having a crisis of intelligence. There is a dead body, which it wishes to absorb. And then there is you. And it kind of ends up splitting the difference. So firstly, it moves into your space, which it's not trying to absorb you, so it basically rebounds you further into the tunnel, like it compacts you further into the tunnel. And then it absorbs the body of Father Iscarion, which again, a horrifying sight, and a new mouth appears. And then it also attacks you with one of its mouths. It does like 3 actions at once as its mind is pulled in all these different directions. And that's a miss. And Archimandrite Zerion. Normally, his folding geometry keeps things from getting where you currently are, but you were basically just compressed into his space. There was nowhere else for your body to go. So now that you're in close quarters with him, he will take a dagger from underneath his the folds of his robes and attempt to stab you. Alrighty, let's see how it goes. Bing, 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 boing. That's a miss. Primius.
All right. Oh yeah.
That is a hit. That is a miss. That is a hit.
There you go. Do I smite?
To smite or not to smite? That is the question.
I did 20 damage to him before.
With smiting,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, with smiting. Because I did like 9 and then I did 11.
Yeah.
I think I will smite.
Alrighty.
That, and that.
18 and 7. You plunge your rapier into his shoulder, and Zerion's guard breaks. He's not very adept with his dagger. That was the one truth he probably told you. They were not ready for a fight, much less against an actual soldier. If they killed the other Hieromonk, Therion, which seems increasingly likely, they did it through surprise rather than battle. And then you plunge your longsword into his chest, and for a moment, a part of you expects him to survive, because he already survived one of them. Whatever infernal power was keeping him going. You almost think it'll do it again, but then his eyes roll back, blood spurts from his mouth, and as a pulse of light moves along your blade, all that's left is a singed hole in his torso. And as he dies, the mouther begins to vibrate very aggressively. Like the body begins to tear itself, it's almost like it's starting to tear itself apart. Some mouths are pulling against it, others are pulling against it. Whatever intelligence was making this thing a coherent entity is gone. So on the creature's turn, you watch as, quite literally, it splits itself into pieces. Half of its body pulls one direction, the other half the other. Some mouths pull towards the Archimandrite. One tries to bite you, but the end result is a bloody mess, and after a couple more agonizing, heaving moments of life, the whole thing goes still, and blood oozes across the floor of the cavern. So, that was a lot.
Yeah.
You are now surrounded by the body of one person and also like 26 others in a slightly different form.
All right. Is it normally a judge's job to like start the de-desecration of this, or?
Well, there is a phrase in Mithdosica. You are judge, jury, and executioner. You can do whatever the fuck you want to clean this thing up.
Okay.
We can kind of move into the slight abstract here. Actually, no. There is one thing. You wear a silver holy symbol around your neck. This is technically not afforded to your rank. You should have a gold holy symbol, but you had to get one quickly before you left for spellcasting purposes. Your father has been commissioning you one, like dedicated for your service as a judge, but actual artful holy symbols take a long time because they need to be consecrated and blah, blah, blah. But on the neck of this Archimandrite, you see a golden holy symbol, and with your divine sense, it is reeking with desecration. The holy symbol being worn by the others have now been absorbed into the gibbering mouther and lay across the floor in piles of blood. But this one could still be consecrated.
Yeah, I'll grab that.
Alrighty. Now, the act of consecration, weirdly enough, can either be a spell, which just kind of does it in 10 minutes, or it can be a rather lengthy and involved process. You're at 9 health, so you're pretty injured. Would you like to deal with the rest of the cleanup of the church and then consecrate this? Or, like, what order? Now we can kind of step out from beyond the scene. What do we want to do to wrap this all up?
I think if these guys were right and they just Mother Luna was like in on it, I still have her maybe to deal with, but
sure. Well, yeah, so I guess that's an immediate question. As you climb up the ladder and exit the basement, the building is empty. All the servants were told, like, the volunteers, they're not here for whatever reason. Maybe they're ordered out by the Archimandrite. So you are the only one in this entire temple complex at the moment. But eventually, the other Hyrule monk and Mother Lunion are both going to come back. So in the short term, what are your preparations for that? You're also coated in blood. Your own and the Gibbering Mouthers and the Archimandrites.
Are we looking at each other?
Well, no, he's dead. I'm just saying that, like, they're off somewhere.
I thought you said they came back.
No, I said they will come back at some point.
Fuck.
They're off to get groceries, so.
Can you even send a letter in that amount of time?
No, you'd have, like, hours. Letters take days or weeks.
Yeah.
Also, you're covered in blood.
I guess I'll start, like, consecrating the holy symbol.
Okay, well, like I was mentioning before, consecration can either be a spell that happens immediately, or it can be a much more involved ritualistic process, which is kind of to the individual. There are, like, orthodox ways of doing it, like given to you in the Summa Theologica. What is your method of purifying this unpure symbol?
I will hold it over the fire, and I will, I guess, walk with it, talk with it, just, I don't know, wine and dine it a bit.
Over the next hour or two, as you wait for the return of the others, you hold the symbol over the fire until it is glowing hot. You read the text of the Summa Theologica to it. You speak the words of Aurelian's soul, and more importantly, you explain what its purpose will be. It will be to fight evil. It will be to spread tyranny and oppression onto the foes of Aurelian's soul. It will be an instrument of vengeance and conquest. And after about an hour of this, this is before the others have returned, you cast a divine sense. And as you sniff the metal, its corruption is gone. You have a gold holy symbol now. So, Mother Lunion and the Hyro monk Xenion are going to be back soon.
Yeah.
What's the plan?
Well, I don't have anything to... Wait. I don't even know if I have any spell slots left. No, I don't. Well, I guess I'll wait for them in the center house.
In the almshouse?
Yeah.
You go over to one of the dining tables, you kick up your feet, you bandage your wounds, and about an hour and a half later, so this is 2.5 hours after the incident, the door is unlocked, and the mother alongside the Hyro monk step inside. You can see a cart out on the street behind them, but they're each carrying about an armful, and when they see you sitting there, blood like crusted onto your face, your blades both like put in their scabbards, but worse for wear, like one of your blades kind of dangling from your belt where the strap was nearly cut by one of the teeth of the gibbering mouther. She will gasp, and the Hyro monk will immediately adopt like a defensive posture. He doesn't have a weapon on him, but he'll kind of like step in front of her to protect her from you.
Please. I only did the work that was required. Have a seat.
There is a long moment where I think even you kind of like put your hand on your blade and wonder if this is about to be another fight, because there's this long hesitancy. But Lunion will kind of reach a hand up and touch Xenion's shoulder. And then she'll say to you, "Is the Archimandrite alive?"
No. Why would he be?
She'll kind of sink to her knees and begin to sob. And Xenion, armed with only his fists, is going to run at you.
I don't really know if he's like... I think I'm just gonna like non-lethally like take him down.
You are at 9 health. Are you sure you want to risk that? If he punches you twice, that would be enough to knock you unconscious.
True, I'll draw my swords and kill him.
All right. Yeah, I mean, he's like a commoner, basically. So you run him through with your sword, and a moment later, he is on the ground, bleeding out onto the floor. You can stabilize him there, because you have such abilities. And to save a little bit of time, just because she's going to be very hard to communicate with, everyone here was in on it. Like, everyone. She was, too. She was just a scapegoat to get you into the basement. So, what are the fates of the 2 survivors?
Well, I'm gonna kill the guy.
Okay.
And then, I think, for, Mother Lunia, I will send her to the Department of Faith as proof that I didn't just murder a group of people.
Well, yeah, so after this incident, you close up the temple. No visitors are admitted that evening, and no one tries to break in, luckily. You were kind of, a small part of you was wondering if those excess followers of that were going into the basement, if they would try to come inside, but you spend the night in the fire chamber and no one attempts to break in, and you keep the flame lit throughout the night. And the following morning, when there are natural questions as to why the local temple is shut down and a boyar comes to clarify, you simply do as is expected of you. You present your judge's badge, you inform him you have purged this local temple of filth, and you don't have to answer to him because you're a judge of the empire and this is imperial property, so you don't care what he thinks about it. And eventually you close up the temple completely. It'll be dealt with by the Department of Faith. This is no longer your problem. But you do begin to make your way back home with a prisoner tailing behind you. She's not a particular handful. She is a level 1 cleric with only healing abilities, and she is not particularly good at fighting. None of them were. So keeping her prisoner is not going to be especially difficult. And as Eventually, you return to Mythos and you turn in this mother, and you never bother to inquire as to her fate. She sealed at the moment she joined with heretics. You go to your familial estate, and for the first time in a week, you sleep in your actual bed. And that night, when you go to bed, and you're laying there staring up at the ceiling, the rage which has been coursing through you ever since the death of your family is slightly alleviated. Punishment has been given upon those responsible, the heretics, the heathens, those who bring down the empire, and a new emotion slips into you, tempering the fury. It is sadness. And that night, rather than waking up from your dream drenched in sweat, you find yourself mourning the loss of those who were so close to you for the first time in a year. And with that, we'll bring it to a close.
Yippee!
We'll be back next week with something. It'll either be a main session or a Maximus session. We'll see. But either way, Pax is back. Yippee. Bye-bye.
Bye.